Chapter 598 Elven Mother Tree and Divine Kingdom Star Whisper City, Elven Empire. The faction's exclusive spatial teleportation array. When Zhou and the others appeared on the spatial teleportation array, a group of elves wearing exquisite light armor, strange flower crowns, bows, and swords on their backs immediately surrounded them before they could react. They were all young female elves. They had slender figures, exquisite faces, light green eyes, and pointed ears. They looked like one in a million beauties among ordinary people. The lords brought by Zhou were stunned when they saw so many elves. Some of the lords even had infatuation in their eyes. One had to know that they had all been enhanced by beauty, but even so, a large portion of them were not even as good-looking as these elves. It could be seen how exaggerated their appearance and figures were. Only Zhou could firmly crush the looks of these elves with his celestial appearance. Some of the elves looked at Zhou with beautiful light green eyes that lit up. The elves were a race that loved beauty. Many elves would even use appearance as the criteria when choosing their spouse. Therefore, Zhou's stunning face captured the hearts of many elves the moment he appeared in front of them. Even the captain of the elven guards looked at Zhou's appearance and was stunned for a moment before coming back to her senses. "You must be the king of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Please follow me. We need to transfer to another spatial teleportation array and head to the Elven Imperial City first. Her Majesty is waiting for you," the captain of the guards said politely. "Sure." Zhou nodded. Then, he called for everyone to walk down from the spatial teleportation array. Thick spatial power erupted, forming a spatial passageway with endless suction behind it, directly sucking it into the spatial rift. The captain of the guards frowned slightly, but she did not say anything, and led everyone to another spatial teleportation array. On the way, Zhou glanced at the distant city wall. This Whisper City was not inferior to the Blazing Sun Kingdom. But even so, he could also hear shouts and battle sounds from afar. He could even clearly hear the roars of the scarlet monsters. Zhou's heart turned slightly solemn. When Zhou and the others arrived, they were immediately shocked by the scene. All kinds of natural scenery fused perfectly with the various buildings in the elven style. Ancient trees and buildings more than 10,000 meters tall could be seen everywhere. All kinds of civilization wonders and special buildings were dazzling, generously showing the terrifying foundation of this empire that had developed for tens of thousands of years. There were strange flowers, strange plants, people of foreign race life forms, and many things that they had never heard or seen before. However, this was not the most shocking thing. There were two things that shocked him the most. One was a golden ancient tree that was tens of thousands of meters tall. It shot into the sky and covered the sky. The golden crown that covered the entire Elven Imperial City was like a heavenly canopy given by the god spirit, protecting the entire Elven Imperial City and countless elven citizens. What shocked everyone was that they saw a star, an incomparably huge star. The star was even larger than this divine tree. It stood tall in the sky and emitted a majestic life aura. If one listened carefully, they could even hear the holy songs of the god spirits chanting softly. Everyone was so shocked that they did not know what to say. Even Zhou did not speak for a moment. However, at the same time, the bloodline inheritances from the various bloodline races in his mind were also quickly flipping through the information. They told him about the origin of this divine tree, and that star almost immediately. Elven Mother Tree Abigail, the true god tier of fertility and breeding, Octavel's divine kingdom star. Zhou muttered under his breath. He was shocked. It was one thing for his bloodline to record such inheritances, but seeing them with his own eyes in reality was another matter. Especially the latter. That was a true god tier existence. If the master god tier did not appear, the true god tier would be the overlord of this world. He did not expect the Elven Empire to be protected by a true god tier. It seemed that the rumors were right. This generation of Elven Empress indeed had hope of building the Elven Empire into an Elven divine kingdom. This was because the hardest and most important thing about building a divine kingdom was to have 3 true god tier existences protect their country. Everything was difficult at the beginning. Since there was already one, the next 2 would not be very difficult. At this moment, the captain of the guard who had brought them here had wanted to introduce their elven capital to Zhou and the others, especially the elven mother tree and the divine kingdom star in the sky. However, when she heard Zhou's whisper, she looked a little surprised. This human lord from the unknown cerulean planet actually knew about this. It had to be known that even many veteran kingdoms might not know what was going on with the elven mother tree and the divine kingdom star, because the various forces had always been very conservative. This human lord could actually tell the details immediately, and even recognized which god spirit the god spirit star came from. Even ordinary high-level bloodline races might not be able to compare to such knowledge. She originally looked down on these country bumpkin lords from the cerulean planet. It was just that she pretended to be polite on the surface and held herself in high regard, so she did not show it. However, she no longer harbored that contempt now. It seemed that the reason why this human lord could obtain the title of the strongest lord of all races was indeed not because of luck. Everyone continued to walk towards the imperial palace. "May I ask how I should address you?" Zhou asked the captain after coming back to his senses. "My name is Ali, the captain of the 3rd Guards of the imperial palace." Ali said casually. "My name is Zhou." Zhou smiled and said. After that, everyone went all the way to the imperial palace and quickly saw the original elven empress, Elizariel, sitting cross-legged on the throne. Nonetheless, only Zhou met the empress again. As for the others, they waited at the entrance of the hall for the time being. "Your Majesty, the king of the blazing sun has been brought here," Ali said respectfully. "Good work. You can leave." The elven empress, who was wearing a gorgeous resplendent dress and had extremely beautiful facial features, said calmly. "Yes, Your Majesty," Ali said respectfully and left quietly. "Greetings, Your Majesty," Zhou said respectfully. This was the empress who ruled the entire elves. It was not embarrassing to be polite. There's no need to be so polite. Since you've joined my Elven Empire faction, we're considered friends. You should need faction points, right? I have a quest that you should be interested in. It depends on whether you're confident enough to take it. Elizariel went straight to the point. "What is it?" Zhou asked cautiously. Chapter 599 Faction Quest. Lost True God Tier Divine Artifact Fragment. There's a ruin of the divine battlefield in the territory of our Elven Empire. Every time a war breaks out, this ruins of the god war can gather majestic life and death power to open its door. At that time, the living beings from the outside world can enter and search for the treasures left behind in the ruins of the god war battlefield. I want you to enter and retrieve one of the divine artifact fragments of the true god tier. Then bring it back to me. As long as you can complete this matter, I won't be stingy with the reward. Moreover, I can distribute faction points to you to the greatest extent, making you almost 100% the king of lords in our Elven Empire's camp. As for your Lord of all races faction points ranking, I will also do my best to help you increase your ranking. However, what rank you can stay in the end will depend on your strength. How about that? The Empress suggested calmly. It was as if she knew the content of the activities of the Lord of all races very well. Zhou was not surprised. With this Empress status, it was too easy for her to understand such information. He looked at the mission notification that had just appeared in front of him. Elven Empire Camp. Original Empress Elizariel has issued a faction quest to you. Alliance name, Lost True God Tier Divine Artifact Fragment. Quality of quest, Legendary Tier Advanced Grade, Highest, Unique. Quest description. In the territory of the Elven Empire, there is a battlefield of the gods that involves the battle of the god spirits. This battlefield has been completely closed off for tens of thousands of years. Only when a vast amount of vitality and death energy gathers will a world fissure open on this battlefield, allowing life forms from the outside world to enter. You need to enter the world fissure on the day it opens, and obtain the true god tier intermediate grade divine artifact fragment, Spirit Nurturing Stone Seed. Hand it to the original Elven Empress, and you will receive a large number of rewards. Quest reward, 300 million faction points. Diplomatic relations with the Elven Empire to be upgraded to the level of admiration, a nature child elf bloodline of high-level god-tier advanced grade, the loyalty of 10,000 nature elves, 10,000 legendary tier mist cores, the friendship of the original elven empress, Elizariel. At the same time, Elizariel will help you increase your ranking in the King of 10,000 Kings event. What generous rewards! Zhou looked at the reward and could not help but be a little surprised. This reward was much richer than the reward given to him by the Night Empire. However, his expression became serious again. Given the size of the Elven Empire, the fact that it could take out so many rewards as rewards for the faction quests also showed how difficult this faction quest was. It was probably several times, or even more difficult than the Night Empire's faction mission. If I can't get the divine artifact fragment you want, can I give up on this mission? Zhou asked first. Of course. However, if you give up the quest, I won't help you increase your ranking in this King of 10,000 Kings event. When the time comes, you will only be like the other lords of the Elven Empire's camp, and find your own faction quest to obtain faction points as a reward. Elizariel said, Of course, then I'm willing to accept this faction quest. Zhou nodded. With that, he directly accepted this mission. When will this divine battlefield you mentioned be opened? Where is it? He immediately asked after accepting the quest. Now that the Scarlet Lord's faction has just attacked, the life and death energy accumulated is not enough. Normally speaking, it will take at least 10 days for the divine battlefield to absorb enough life force and death energy to open the world fissure in trance. However, I've already sent the various armies of the Elven Empire to speed up the destruction of the Scarlet Forces near the Empire. It should be enough to open the entrance to the divine battlefield after destroying 2 to 3 Scarlet Empires, or 200 to 300 Crimson Kingdoms. Don't worry. At that time, I will send my subordinates to inform you of the time and location. You can look for other faction quests to complete during this period. At this point, Elizariel flipped her right hand, and a golden token appeared in her palm. The golden token was engraved with the tree patterns of the Elven Mother Tree. She waved her hand gently, and the token flew over and landed on Zhou's injuries. This is the Elven Holy Token. Only 10 of them are distributed in the entire Elven Empire. I'll lend it to you for a month. During this period, you can go to the major cities of the Elven Empire to find the faction quests publisher. When the time comes, show this token in front of them, and they will allow you to accept any level of faction quests without the corresponding faction level requirements. If you have nothing to do, you can do these small quests. She said casually, Thank you, Your Majesty. Zhou was overjoyed. Then, he looked at the other parties in different face and hesitated for a moment before saying, Your Majesty, you don't seem nervous about the tribulation of all races this time? Nervous? Elizariel chuckled. Don't compare our Elven Empire to those other small empires. This tribulation of all races event can indeed be considered a calamity for the other empires. After this tribulation of all races event, countless kingdoms, and even empires are destined to die in this calamity. But it's only a little troublesome to our Elven Empire. Moreover, it can also be said to be a huge opportunity. An opportunity? Zhou was stunned. Don't tell me you think that only the lords of all races will obtain a reward from the Supreme Will in this event? As long as we, the kingdoms and empires who participated, perform well in this tribulation of all races, we will also obtain the reward of the Supreme Will. Elizariel replied smilingly. I see. Zhou was enlightened. No wonder he did not see any resentment on the faces of the people from the Night Empire and the Elven Empire when facing lords of all races like them. After all, according to the event introduction, even though the Crimson Overlord looked down on them, the sudden attack of endless Scarlet factions was more or less related to them. He was really not surprised if these kingdom factions and empire factions were resentful towards them because of this. However, he did not see any resentment on their faces after arriving at the Night Empire and the Elven Empire. Previously, he thought that it was because the other party did not understand the reason why the Scarlet faction was attacking. He finally understood. It turned out that they could also obtain benefits that belonged to them in this calamity. After that, he told Elizariel about letting his lords join the Elven Empire. Elizariel agreed readily. Then, Zhou thought for a moment, and told him that he had also accepted a faction quest from the Night Empire. The Night Empire's faction quest is very difficult, which is why I want to ask for your help. This help can be treated as a reward paid in advance. If you think I might not be able to complete the faction quest you gave me, I can also use mist cores to hire the experts of the Elven Empire to help us pass this mission. I wonder if your majesty is willing? Zhou boldly voiced his request. Chapter 600 The God of the Snowfield and White Wolf, Zaiwu. Zhou looked at the Elven Empress. Zhou was confident that he could complete the Night Empire's faction quest because of some trump cards. However, he was not confident that he could complete it without any accidents. Now that there was such a chance to ask for help, he naturally would not give up. You want to make an advance for the reward before completing the quest I gave you. The Elven Empress looked at Zhou with no sign of anger. Aren't you quite thick-skinned? Zhou's expression did not change at all. So what if he was mocked? The most important thing was to reduce the losses of the soldiers and increase the benefits they obtained. I won't give you the faction quest reward in advance. However, you can invite the experts of our Elven Empire if you have enough mist cores. How many you can hire will depend on your ability. The Elven Empress said calmly. Even so, she did not think that the other party could invite many Elven experts. A lord faction of all races that had just arrived in the High Continent and developed for less than a month. No matter how well he developed, how many mist cores could he save up? He would probably be overstretched after hiring 1 or 2 experts. Zhou was overjoyed. What he wanted was the Empress' permission, without which, the experts of the Elven Empire might not even let him in. Not to mention inviting him to do the faction quests. Thank you, Your Majesty, Zhou immediately said. The Elven Empress nodded and waved her hand. Zhou understood and left. In a temporarily arranged palace. When Zhou was led here by Ali, he saw Qi Xiantian, Suan, and the Lords of the Star Alliance. Other than that, he also saw an old friend. It was the first-generation Bloodfire Arrow Elf, Nadia. Zhou looked at her in surprise. His Majesty called me over. From today onwards, I will follow you as an assistant until the tribulation of all races ends. At the same time, I will be in charge of being your liaison with Her Majesty. You can tell me your needs when you're preparing to take on the faction quests. I'll help you if I can. If I can't, I can also contact Her Majesty directly and see if she can help. Nadia smiled. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, looking a little impish. Are you that close? Zhou was delighted. He was just worried about not knowing which elven expert to start looking for. It was much easier for him to find them with Nadia around. Do you know where the god-tier experts who serve the Elven Empire live? Especially those who are free now. Zhou immediately asked. I know. Nadia was stunned for a moment before nodding. As a hero of the Elven Empire, she was quite liked by the Empress, so she knew such things. Currently, there are only 2 god-tier experts who have not been sent out by Her Majesty and are still resting in the Elven Empire. One is Lord Zaiwu, God of the Snowfield and White Wolf, a mid-level god-tier elementary grade expert. The other is Lord Haros, the God of Blazing Sun and Burns, a high-level god-tier elementary grade expert. They are all resting in their shrines. However, the shrines are in the deepest part of the Imperial Palace. God spirits usually don't come out. Even if we go over, I'm afraid the god attendants in charge of guarding won't let us pass easily. Nadia looked hesitant and ashamed. She had just said that she wanted to help, but she did not expect herself to be a little powerless now. However, there was no choice. God spirits were also revered existences in the Elven Empire. Even the Elven Empress had to be polite to the weakest low-tier deity-level god spirits, let alone an ordinary elven hero like her. Don't worry about that. The Empress gave this to me. I should be able to see the 2 god spirits with this token, right? Zhou took out the Elven Holy Token and said with a smile, Her Majesty actually gave you this token? Nadia was shocked when she saw the Elven Holy Token in Zhou's hand. It's also for convenience. Zhou smiled. Of course you can with this token, Nadia said without hesitation. The effect of the elven holy token in the Elven Empire was almost equivalent to the Empress' personal arrival. Only a minister whom the Empress trusted extremely could have this token in a short period of time. They had to return it after using it too. With it in his hands, Zhou could almost do whatever he wanted in the Elven Empire. It was naturally simple to see the two god spirits idle at home. It's good to be able to see them. Time is tight. Lead the way now, Zhou said. Since there were only two god spirits in the Elven capital, he could only try his best to invite these two god spirits over to protect him. As for the price, Zhou was already prepared. It was guaranteed that the two god spirits would not be able to refuse. At a shrine in the depths of the imperial palace, Zhou looked at the white towering and majestic building in front of him. He could vaguely feel the coldness like winter from inside. Moreover, there was an existence emitting an extremely huge life aura living inside. This is the shrine of the god of the snowfield and white wolf, Lord Zaiwu, Nadia said. Zhou nodded. Then he walked over and arrived at the entrance of the shrine. Two god attendants wearing snow-white thick cotton clothes, with a 2 to 3 meter tall white wolf lying beside them were guarding this place. Zhou could tell their strength at a glance. Epic tier elementary grade. He raised his eyebrows slightly. This is the power of the Elven Empire's god spirits? An epic tier elementary grade expert is actually used as a gatekeeper? Halt! Don't you know that this is Lord Zaiwu's shrine? The two god attendants immediately said sternly when they saw Zhou arrive at the door. Please pass on the message that this junior, the Lord of the Blazing Sun, wishes to see Lord Zaiwu. I have something to discuss. Zhou took out the Elven Holy Token and said with a smile. The two god attendants originally wanted to shout at this young man to retreat. Do you think you can see a god spirit just because you want to? However, the two of them were stunned when they saw the golden token in Zhou's hand. Let me see. The god attendant on his left said coldly. Her attitude was much better than before. Zhou handed it over. The god attendant took it and flipped through it for a while. Then she showed it to the other god attendant. When they looked up again, the two of them looked at Zhou in obvious surprise. It was actually a real elven holy token? What right did this human have to be given this privilege token by the Empress? Lord of the Blazing Sun. Could it be the recently famous human lord? At the thought of this, the two of them looked at each other and immediately understood what the other was thinking. Please follow me, the god attendant on the left said politely. Zhou nodded and turned to look at Nadia. Wait for me. Sure. Nadia nodded. Zhou did not say anything else and entered the shrine with the god attendant. Not long after they entered, the other god attendant guarding the door hesitated for a long time before she could not help but ask. Was that human lord just now the one who won the strongest lord of all races at the event arranged by the Supreme Will? Exactly. TSK impressive. I only heard of him in the past. I didn't expect to see him in person today. He's really amazing to be able to obtain the title of the strongest lord of all races from so many powerful lords with the foundation of the human race. The god attendant sighed. Nadia looked at her drastic change in attitude and admired Zhou very much. For some reason, a smile appeared on her face, and she felt inexplicably happy. However, when she thought about how he already had Liya, she could not help but feel disappointed. Chapter 601 Condition in the Shrine. The god attendant brought Zhou to an open-air palace. In this palace, a divine wolf that was more than 1,000 meters tall and snow-white, with a snowflake divine pattern between its eyebrows was entrenched here. It did not move. However, the divine might naturally released was enough to make countless life forms tremble in fear. At this moment, Zaiwu raised its wolf head and stared coldly at Zhou with its ice-blue eyes. Greetings, Lord Zaiwu. Zhou said, neither servile nor overbearing in the face of the god spirit's direct gaze. Zaiwu did not say anything. He looked at Zhou and gradually became surprised. This was because the current Zhou clearly only had the strength of an epic tier elementary grade. But he actually gave him a faint sense of threat. It was as if the other party could threaten his life. This intuition made Zaiwu feel that it was ridiculous. One had to know that he was a mid-level deity tier elementary grade god spirit. Not to mention the epic tier. Even a low-tier deity tier expert would not give him this feeling in front of him. However, the human lord in front of him gave him an unbelievable feeling. How could he not be surprised? As a wolf-type god spirit, he had always believed in this intuition. Therefore, he immediately did not dare to underestimate the human lord in front of him. Lord of the Blazing Sun, you're very interesting. Tell me, why are you here? The god of the snowfield and white wolf, Zewu said in a low voice. Then it'll be straightforward. From today onwards, in a month, it will be the King of 10,000 Kings event set by the Supreme Will. I want to ask Lord Zewu to temporarily protect my Blazing Sun Kingdom during this period of time, until it officially ends in a month. Of course, I won't let Lord Zewu take action for nothing. I won't disappoint Lord Zewu in terms of remuneration. Zhou said. Ask me to protect your Blazing Sun Kingdom? Do you know how dangerous the outside world is now? How many Scarlet God spirits are eyeing the outside world covetously? Even though I'm a God spirit, I won't be able to do well if I'm surrounded by many Scarlet God spirits. I might even die. Moreover, you're a lord who has only been in the High Continent for less than a month. Even if you obtain some rewards from the Supreme Will's event, what treasure can you take out to move a mid-level deity tier expert like me? There's no need to mention the mist cores. I don't need that thing. Do you have divine crystals? Have you heard of divine crystals? Zewu mocked. I actually have divine crystals. Under Zewu's stunned gaze, Zhou really took out a mid-level deity tier divine crystals from his king's treasure box. But then he put it away. However, I think Lord Zewu should like this more. Zhou flipped his right hand. A robe that was completely ice blue and emitted a faint aura of powerful divine power appeared in his hand. Seeing this ice blue robe, Zewu, who had a cold and indifferent expression, immediately stood up as if he had seen an extremely tempted treasure. He looked at the robe with burning greed. A divine artifact. He said fervently, yes, this is a low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine artifact. Its name is the Ice Demon Sacrificial Robe. It should be barely worthy of your attention, even though its grade is relatively low. Zhou smiled. This Ice Demon Sacrificial Robe was one of the 6 duplicate divine artifacts that he had dropped when he killed the hero of the Ice Demon Kingdom. As he still had 2 Ice Demon Sacrificial Robes in his hands, he did not care much about using them in a transaction. In any case, it was only a low-tier deity-level divine artifact. A large number of legendary tier enemies could be dropped. On this high continent, there were indeed very few god spirits. However, were there not many legendary tier experts? There must be a lot. Therefore, he did not feel that it was a pity at all. However, in Zewu's eyes, this divine artifact was exceptionally precious. In the myriad worlds, other than a very small number of divine artifacts that were naturally nurtured, most of the other divine artifacts were forged by god-tier divine artifact forgers. How rare were divine artifact forgers? They were simply like giant pandas among god spirits. They could only be chanced upon by luck. Therefore, it was extremely difficult for god spirits to obtain divine artifacts. Most god spirits usually only had 3 ways to obtain divine artifacts. One way would be a god spirit with an inheritance relationship between the same pantheon who inherited their respective divine artifacts. The second was to use the power of faith and divine power to temper a certain divine artifact embryo for a long time. After a long period of tempering, there was a chance of creating a divine artifact. The last method was much simpler. That was to kill a god spirit to snatch its divine artifact. Other than that, they could only rely on luck or some special methods. Zewu was luckier. The white wolf race that he was from had once given birth to a white wolf god, which became a god through faith a long time ago. The other party had used the power of faith and divine power to condense a divine artifact, White Wolf Tooth. After thousands of years, this divine artifact had only been upgraded to low-level deity tier advanced grade. Poor he. As a mid-level deity tier elementary grade god spirit, if word got out that he only had a low-level deity tier advanced grade divine artifact, living beings who did not know better might feel that this god of White Wolf was doing too badly. However, if the other god spirits knew about this, they would probably feel that the god of White Wolf was really lucky and wish they could replace him. That was why it was so excited when it saw this low-level deity tier elementary grade divine artifact. What to do? Another low-level divine artifact would directly increase his strength by at least 30% to him, who only had one low-level divine artifact to him. Moreover, this was an ice element robe-type divine artifact. There was a high chance that it was a defensive divine artifact with ice stats. If he could have it, he would no longer have any shortcomings in attack and defense. It was not an exaggeration to say that his strength would double. He might even be able to pry into the method to increase his ice stats law skill from this ice element divine artifact. You plan to give me this divine artifact in exchange for me protecting your kingdom for a month? Zaiwu licked his lips and said, Yes. Zhou nodded. Deal, Zaiwu said without hesitation. Zhou muttered in his heart. It seemed that he had suffered a loss. Perhaps the other party would most likely agree if he used divine crystals to trade. However, Zhou did not lack divine artifacts. What he lacked was the common currency among god spirits, divine crystals. Therefore, he did not feel that he had suffered a loss. Let me tell you in advance. I won't risk my life for your blazing sun kingdom if I encounter danger that I can't resist. Zaiwu added. Sure. Then I have a condition too. How about handing over the corpses of the enemies you killed to us? Zhou said. Zaiwu hesitated. However, thinking about what he had just said, he might feel that he had taken advantage of him. So he nodded and agreed. Zaiwu, I can obtain a low-level deity tier divine artifact by protecting a kingdom for a month. I've made a killing. Zhou, I made a killing by using an extra and useless low-level deity tier elementary grade divine artifact in exchange for a mid-level deity tier god spirit to protect me through the faction quests. The man and the god looked up at each other at the same time and smiled awkwardly, feeling a little guilty. Chapter 602 God of Blazing Sun and Burns. Herass. After bidding farewell to the god of the snowfield and White Wolf, Zaiwu, Zhou and Nadia headed to the shrine of the god of Blazing Sun and Burns, Lord Herass. Why are you looking for these two god spirits? You don't have to tell me if it's inconvenient. Nadia asked curiously. There's nothing I can't tell you. Aren't we doing faction quests? I want to get some help. Zhou smiled and said. How did it go? I heard that it's very difficult for either Lord Zaiwu or Lord Herass, whom we're going to look for next, to ask them to take action. Those two god spirits might not do anything even if Her Majesty comes personally. Zhou clicked his tongue in wonder. However, he was not very surprised. They were all god spirits after all. It was normal for them to like freedom and not listen to orders. Still, they don't even listen to you, but you still recruit them and give them offerings? Zhou asked curiously. Our elven empire has more than a dozen god spirits protecting our empire. Some of these god spirits were invited by us at a huge price. They are naturally willing to listen to Her Majesty's orders and serve the elven empire. They are even willing to do some dangerous things. However, there are also god spirits that we invited at a very small price to guard our elven empire. They are equivalent to a sex guest elder. These god spirits don't have a very strong sense of belonging to our elven empire, and we didn't invest too many resources in them. Therefore, they are relatively free and don't have to completely listen to our orders. Nadia explained. This information was not a secret in the elven empire. Or rather, every empire used this method to rope in god spirits, so it did not matter even if it was disclosed to Zhou. Zhou came to a realization. No wonder these two god spirits were so carefree. He had learnt that he could completely do the same in the future, and let the Blazing Sun Kingdom have more experts when he became rich and imposing. It was good to have more deterrents even if they did not take action. They arrived at the shrine of the god of Blazing Sun and Burns, Lord Herass. Zhou looked at the shrine in front of him. This shrine also looked quite majestic, much larger than the shrine of the god of the snowfield and White Wolf. It was completely scarlet, and there was a huge sun standing at the top of the shrine, burning with raging scarlet flames, transmitting terrifying heat in all directions. However, it would automatically disappear after reaching a certain border, looking very magical. "I'm going then," Zhou said to Nadia. Zhou nodded. Then, he came to the front of the shrine, and also entered through the elven holy token. He met the god of blazing sun and burns, Heros. The god of blazing sun and burns. Heros' main body was a fire elemental creature. It had no fixed form. When Zhou saw him, he only saw a ball of scarlet flames floating in the sky, emitting an uncomfortable and terrifying heat. If ordinary diamond tier experts came here, they would probably be burned by the heat with divine power, and lose all the moisture in their bodies before dying. Fortunately, Zhou's constitution was also extremely strong, allowing him to ignore such terrifying flames. This surprised Heros, who had wanted to see Zhou make a fool of himself. Then, Zhou said the same thing as when he faced Zaiwu. However, Zhou had made changes to the price of inviting God. Zhou walked out of the shrine. Nadia, who was waiting for Zhou, immediately walked over. "Why are you out so quickly?" Nadia said in surprise. Then, she thought of something and hesitated for a moment before comforting her. "It doesn't matter if it fails. I know some heroes of the legendary tier Elven Empire. Their combat strengths are not inferior to a low-level deity tier expert. I'll invite a few more people, and they should be able to help you complete your faction mission." "Thank you, but no," since he agreed. Zhou laughed. "How did you invite him?" Nadia's eyes widened. He could actually do something that even Her Majesty could not do. Zhou smiled and did not say anything. This time he did not pay any divine artifacts or divine crystals. Instead, he took out a Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystal. Originally, he wanted to use this resurrection opportunity to ask this high-level deity tier expert to protect the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Even though, given the shelter of the Goddess of Lives level, it could only revive life forms below the legendary tier elementary grade. However, the other party might also be tempted and agreed to his request. If it really didn't work, Zhou even planned to take out divine crystals to trade. This was a high-level deity tier existence after all. If he was by his side, he could definitely safely complete the Night Empire's faction quests. Who would have thought that as soon as he took out the Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystal, the other party's gaze landed on it and stopped moving. Zhou's sixth senses was astonishing, and he was also smart. He directly changed his words and used a Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystal to ask the other party to protect the Blazing Sun Kingdom for a month. During this period, he had to help him complete the faction quests. He did not expect the other party to agree without hesitation. Whether it's the god of death or the other god spirits, they're so passionate about the faith divine crystals. They seem to value the path of faith to godhood very much. Zhou pondered silently. In the future, there was a high chance that he would also walk the path of faith, becoming a god. Because everyone knew that the Lord talents of the blessing of the 10 gods represented the 10 master god tier experts. They were also the 10 strongest master god tier experts in the High Continent, and even the endless heavens. Almost all of them walked both the path of faith and law to becoming a god. This was one of the important reasons why they were so powerful. So, he would also take both the path of faith and the path of law to become a god. This way, he would not be weaker than other god spirits when he grew up. On the other side, Nadia obediently did not ask further, seeing that Zhou did not answer. The two of them walked all the way to the residence of the Star Alliance Master. Under the throne, "Your Majesty, I just received news that the god of the Snowfield and White Wolf, Lord Zaiwu, and the god of Blazing Sun and Burns, Lord Heros, have already agreed to the King of the Blazing Sun's request to travel with him and assist him in completing his faction quests in this month." A mysterious life form in a black robe that covered her entire body said to Elizariel, the Elven Empress, who was sitting upright on the throne. "They actually agreed to that kid's request." Elizariel's beautiful eyebrows immediately curled up slightly. "I've invited them so many times, but they're unwilling to help. Why would they agree with their lazy nature?" Elizariel was puzzled. The god of the Snowfield and White Wolf did reveal some information. It's because the King of the Blazing Sun took out a low-level deity-tier elementary-grade divine artifact that he couldn't refuse. As for Lord Heros, he didn't reveal the specific content of the conversation, so I don't know for the time being. The life form in black whispered, "Low-level deity-tier divine artifact? Where did that kid get so many treasures? Rewards from the Supreme Will? Divine artifacts? There were not many of them even in their elven empire." Elizariel narrowed her eyes slightly. Chapter 603 The Terrifying Tribulation of All Races. I thought I'm already expecting a lot from him. I didn't expect this guy to still exceed my expectations. Elizariel muttered to herself. She had thought that the other party could at most recruit some epic tier and legendary tier experts in the Elven Empire. Anyone better would be epic tier and legendary tier heroes. Even though such an existence was considered the mainstay of the Elven Empire, and even the top combat strength, she would not care too much if he recruited some in a short period of time on account that he would help her complete the faction quests. But he had taken away the only two god spirits in her capital. She found it hard to accept this. She was still thinking of leaving these two god spirits to guard her capital. Now this is timely. They found the opportunity to run away. As for the true god tier in the sky, even though he had already agreed to be a guardian of the Elven Empire, however, there were conditions. She could not easily drive him to do anything before completing these conditions. Your Majesty, it's all thanks to the Elven Holy Token that Your Majesty lent him, that the other party was able to recruit successfully this time. Otherwise, he probably won't even be able to enter the shrines. The mysterious life form in black also told this news to Elizariel, adhering to the principle of dutifulness. Elizariel was speechless. What a sin! She was filled with regret. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have given it to him. After Zhou met up with his subordinates and lords, he returned to the Blazing Sun Kingdom and brought 20 million soldiers to do the faction quests. The remaining 3 million soldiers stayed behind to protect the Lord's territory of the Blazing Sun Kingdom and the Star Alliance. Outside the borders of the Night Empire, in the captain's room of the Starry Night, Zhou looked at the map in his hand. This map was given to him by the Night Empire before he left. It depicted very detailed terrain information, especially on the map between the Night Empire and the Divine Sword Empire. It was extremely detailed. There was even the latest distribution of the Scarlet Forces. Zhou was quite satisfied with this. He felt much more confident about the upcoming mission. According to the map, the spatial teleportation array closest to us is about 10 million kilometers southeast. With the speed of the Starry Night, we can arrive in less than 10 minutes if we fly at full speed. Zhou put away the map and waited quietly. 8 minutes later, Zhou felt the spaceship stop. A virtual screen appeared in front of him. A silver incomplete array square covering a radius of 10 kilometers was laid on the ground. Around 40,000 to 50,000 strange scarlet monsters with eagle heads and cow bodies were guarding this place. Most of their strength was below the white platinum tier. Only a small number of scarlet monsters had reached the diamond tier and extraordinary tier. However, at this moment, they looked a little lazy, as if they were unwilling to guard this array formation. Zhou carefully used the life detection radar function of the spaceship to look around. After discovering that there was no ambush, he gave the orders through the army interface. The next second, a starry night appeared and opened its hatch. A total of 500,000 Blazing Sun Army soldiers jumped down from the hatch on the wings of the Fear Falcon. Then, they pounced on the 40,000 to 50,000 scarlet monsters below at an extremely fast speed. With such a huge difference in strength and military strength, the outcome was naturally without suspense. In less than 20 seconds, the Blazing Sun Army wiped out the other party, and won with 0 injuries and 0 sacrifices. The ownership of this extraordinary tier advanced grade spatial teleportation array had also successfully transferred to the Blazing Sun Army. After confirming that their surroundings were safe, Zhou ordered the spaceship to fly down and land on the spatial teleportation array. He looked at the damaged spatial teleportation array in front of him and frowned slightly. Then he called a soldier over. Let the Spatial Teleportation Array maintenance team come over. This spatial teleportation array needs repairs," he said. The soldier immediately received the order and left. 1,000 Spatial Teleportation Array maintenance team quickly walked over. The other Spatial Teleportation Array maintenance team began to repair on the spot. The Spatial Teleportation Array maintenance team in the lead came in front of Zhou, Third Lord of the Spiritual Array Tower. Yu Huan greets His Majesty, the King of the Blazing Sun. Yu Huan was a middle-aged male elf. He looked mature and had a strong body. He wore a white army uniform with blue trimmings and looked like a military. "How long will it take to repair this array formation?" Zhou asked directly. "It's just an extraordinary tier advanced grade spatial teleportation array. We'll repair it with all our might. It can be repaired in less than 5 minutes," Yu Huan said confidently. He was a low-level deity tier advanced grade spatial teleportation array maintenance officer. He did not need to do anything at all for such a low-level array formation to be repaired by the disciples he brought. It would not be too late for him to repair the spatial teleportation array of the legendary tier advanced grade when it was necessary. Zhou nodded. 5 minutes was really not long. Tell the soldiers to guard their surroundings. Once an enemy approaches, there's no need to report. Just destroy them. Zhou instructed Bai Yin. "Yes, Your Majesty," Bai Yin said respectfully, and went to make arrangements. Zhou was about to wait for a while, when he saw more than 100,000 scarlet monsters, with eagle heads and cow bodies, suddenly run over from afar and rush towards the spatial teleportation array. However, before they could approach, they were destroyed by Bai Yin's troops. What happened next was beyond Zhou's expectations. In the next 5 minutes, 3 more waves of scarlet monsters, totaling about 200,000, rushed over, wanting to destroy them and take back the spatial teleportation array. Fortunately, their average strength was not high, and they were easily repelled by Bai Yin. But even so, it also made Zhou feel the horror of this calamity. Scarlet monsters were everywhere. There were so many fog monsters that even Zhou, who was used to seeing them, felt that it was a little ridiculous. Normally speaking, 200,000 fog monsters could occupy a yellow gold tier regional territory. This was only a separate extraordinary tier advanced grade spatial teleportation array. And yet so many fog monsters actually gathered. What about the other important places? Wouldn't that be even more terrifying? While he was thinking, Yu Huan's disciples had already repaired this spatial teleportation array. Right on the heels of that, the spatial teleportation array flashed with silver light. A total of 200,000 knights, with neat military equipment, appeared on the spatial teleportation array. From now on, this spatial teleportation array will be taken over by the Knight Empire's Han Wu Cavalryman Legion. "Thank you for your contribution, King of the Blazing Sun." The Legion commander of the Han Wu Cavalryman Legion walked over and thanked Zhou. A quest notification appeared. Faction quests hint. You have successfully snatched back 1 extraordinary tier advanced grade spatial teleportation array. Reward: 100,000 faction points. Currently, you have snatched back 1/114 extraordinary tier advanced grade spatial teleportation arrays. There's still a long way to go. Zhou lamented. Fortunately, this mission was long, and he was not in a hurry. He did not chat much with this Legion commander. Seeing that they were busy setting up the defensive teleportation array, he led his troops and left. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, it was already night. Zhou, who had snatched back another extraordinary tier advanced grade spatial teleportation array, opened the faction quests notification and looked at it. Faction quests hint. You have successfully recaptured 46 extraordinary tier advanced grade spatial teleportation arrays. Reward for 6 million faction points. Currently, you have recaptured 46/114 extraordinary tier advanced grade spatial teleportation arrays. Faction quests hint. You have successfully recaptured 2 epic tier advanced grade spatial teleportation arrays. Reward: 5 million faction points. Currently, you have recaptured 2 26th epic tier advanced grade spatial teleportation arrays. Even though we're quite efficient, we still have to speed up tomorrow. Who knows when the God War ruin in the Elven Empire will begin? I have to rush over immediately once the ruin is activated. Zhou thought. Chapter 604 Diamond Tier Lord Talent, Wisdom Master God's Blessing. Zhou looked at the quest's information in front of him and recalled his experience today. Today, they had snatched back a total of 48 spatial teleportation arrays. On average, an extraordinary tier advanced grade spatial teleportation array had between 200,000 and 400,000 fog monsters stationed around them. The only 2 epic tier spatial teleportation arrays were even more terrifying. One of them was guarded by 2 million fog monsters, while the other one had a total of 4 million fog monsters stationed around it. Even though Zhou's soldiers still easily destroyed it, it still left a deep impression on him. Other than that, it was not like he had not obtained any benefits. Putting aside the loots and promotion energy, the monsters resulting from their insight defection alone were a huge gain today. Among them, Zhou had used his insight defection on the 4 million fog monsters in the epic tier advanced grade spatial teleportation array. He had directly obtained 480,000 scarlet monster troops. As for the other lords of the Star Alliance, they had also used insight defection and obtained mini fog monsters. It could be said that they had gained a lot. After that, they did not stay any longer. They used this already activated spatial teleportation array to return to the Night Empire, and then teleported back to the Blazing Sun Kingdom. In the Blazing Sun Kingdom, Zhou looked at the list of loots in his hand. Today, they had eliminated a total of 4 million fog monsters. There was no lack of extraordinary tier, and even other epic tier fog monsters. With the enhancement of the King of Loots and the title of the strongest lord, he obtained a total of these loots: 450 legendary tier mist cores, 41,200 epic tier mist cores, 1,551,200 extraordinary tier mist cores, 8,005,000 diamond tier mist cores, 24,323,000 white platinum tier mist cores, 55,502,400 yellow gold tier mist cores, 104,875 white silver tier mist cores, 189,002,425 green bronze tier mist cores. There were 21,359,600 skill books, and 302,401,050 equipment, 280 billion units of basic materials, 13,100 green bronze tier Lord Talent crystal fragments, 1 diamond tier Scarlet Lord Talent sphere, and 5 Holy Spirit tier Faith divine crystals. In addition, in terms of the increase in the combat strength of the soldiers, after today's series of battles, the total military strength under Zhou had also increased again. Other than his own insight defections, 480,000 fog monster troops, the 20% of the insight defection troops handed over to him by the Lord members of the Star Alliance amounted to a total of 233,040 fog monster troops. In total, there were 713,040 fog monsters. Among them, there were 2,088,824 black iron tier soldiers, 1,951,822 green bronze tier soldiers, 3,291,882, while silver tier soldiers, 3,591,506 yellow gold tier soldiers, 2,592,230 white platinum tier soldiers, 1,145,01 diamond tier soldiers, 26,500 extraordinary tier soldiers, and 21 epic tier soldiers. In addition, the original spirit race, Ansel, had broken through to diamond tier elementary grade. The Dragon King of War and Strength, Horus, former extreme dragon race lord, had broken through to the diamond tier advanced grade. Soul Arrow, Wu Tu, had broken through to extraordinary tier elementary grade. The Ghost God General, Luo Sheng, had broken through to the epic tier elementary grade. The other new heroes who had just joined the Blazing Sun Kingdom had also increased their strength greatly. Zhou looked at the loots and nodded in satisfaction. Now with the 32 million troops under his command and controlled by the Star Alliance, his total military strength had reached 25 million. If I want to complete the faction quest this time, I will face a large number of fog monsters every day. I can upgrade the insight defection. Zhou pondered. After upgrading insight defection, he would increase the level of the Lord's insight defection. This way, he would have more new troops every day. However, there was no hurry. He turned his attention to the Diamond-tier Scarlet Lord talent sphere he had obtained in today's battle. Zhou looked at the Diamond-tier Scarlet Lord talent sphere with burning eyes. It held a Diamond-tier Lord talent. If used well, he could be treated as a cheat. He no longer hesitated and focused on it. A text notification appeared. Do you want to purify it? Purify, Zhou said expectantly. The next second, a golden light flashed on the Scarlet Lord talent sphere. After the golden light disappeared, its message also changed. Treasure name, Blessing of the 10 Gods, Wisdom Master God's Blessing. Treasure grade, Diamond tier, Treasure effect. After absorbing it, the Lord will have the Diamond tier Lord talent, Blessing of the 10 Gods, Wisdom Master God's Blessing. Treasure description, a Lord talent sphere purified by the Supreme Will. After absorbing it, you can obtain a Diamond tier Lord talent. It's actually a Lord talent from the Blessing of the 10 Gods series? Zhou was a little surprised. He did not expect it to be this Lord talent. He could already feel how abnormal the Blessing of the War God's Lord talent was. It could be said that the reason why his Blazing Sun Kingdom could have today's achievements was because of this Lord talent of the Blessing of the 10 Gods series. He wondered how effective this new Lord talent of the Blessing of the 10 Gods series would be. But soon, Zhou remembered something. It seemed like there was a Lord talent holder with the Wisdom Master God's Blessing in the Military Industry Alliance of the Military Industry Lord. With this Lord talent, the other party was very popular in researching cerulean planet weapons. Could it be that this Lord talent was related to researching weapons? He thought for a moment, and another bold idea appeared in his mind. I wonder if I can gather all the Blessing of the 10 Gods Lord talents in the future? Perhaps there will be some new changes if all of them are gathered? He muttered. Then he shook his head and gave up on this idea. Even though the Blessing of the 10 Gods Lord talent was not rare, it was not easy to chance upon them either. If he wanted to gather these 10 Lord talents, he had to be extremely lucky or slaughter a large number of lords. The former was too illusory. If he wanted to do the latter, he had to take his time. He stopped thinking about it and looked at the Lord talent sphere again. The text notification appeared again. Do you want to absorb this Lord talent sphere Diamond tier? Yes, Zhou said. The next second, this Diamond tier Lord talent sphere immediately turned into countless diamond-colored light spots and surged into his glabella. Zhou closed his eyes. He reopened his eyes again after some time. Then, he immediately opened his Lord's personal information. His Lord talent column had already been updated. Lord talents, King of Loots, mythical tier. Unique. Gnome Alchemy Workshop, Monster Ranch, yellow gold tier. Insight defection, yellow gold tier. Peace and prosperity diamond tier. Return to the city white silver tier. Mysterious caravan yellow gold tier. Master Thief's robbery gloves legendary tier. Blessing of the 10 Gods. Blessing of the War God epic tier. The shelter of the Goddess of Life, diamond tier. Night Temple extraordinary tier. Dragon slaying hometown, white platinum tier. Gift of the Machina, white silver tier. Embrace of the Conqueror, white silver tier. Fighting God full-time master 2, Lord Shop, mythical tier. Unique. Scavenger sturdy constitution, agricultural kingdom, extraordinary tier. Ultimate algorithm, mythical tier unique. King's treasure box extraordinary tier. Talent intuition epic tier. Peach luck, beauty, blessing of the 10 gods, wisdom master god's blessing diamond tier. Chapter 605 Terrifying extraordinary tier insight defection. My 25th Lord talent. Zhou nodded. Then he immediately opened the details of the talent. Lord talent. Blessing of the 10 gods. Wisdom Master God's blessing. Diamond tier. Blessing of the 10 gods. Wisdom Master God's blessing. The Wisdom Master God's blessing of one of the 10 Master Gods under the Supreme Will. The Wisdom Master God has blessed you and your wisdom-related professionals. When you and your wisdom-related professionals carry out wisdom-related professional actions, You will receive an additional 4,000% promotion energy. There is also a chance of obtaining more wisdom and inspiration when carrying out wisdom creation-related actions. Zhou looked at this Lord Talent in surprise. I see. No wonder the Lord in the Military Industry Lord Alliance is good at developing cerulean planet arms. It turns out that the professionals under him have all been enhanced in terms of intelligence. Moreover, the range of intelligent professionals is quite large. Many lifestyle professionals can be considered intelligent professionals. Archaeologists, mathematicians, physicists, chemists, and biologists on the cerulean planet were all intelligent professionals. Extraordinary tier combat classes such as mages, arcanists, and mysticists in the High Continent can also be considered intelligent professionals. Tisk. The more Zhou thought about it, the more he felt that this Lord Talent was terrifying. In the future, the professionals in his territory would definitely start to rapidly increase their lifestyle professionals' levels until they reached the limit of their potential. At the thought of this, a smile appeared on Zhou's face. Even though there were many high-level lifestyle professionals in his territory, they were still inferior to the national lord factions that had existed for hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years. After all, his development time was too short. However, with this Lord Talent, he at least had the qualifications to catch up to them. In addition, he could also plunder the lifestyle professionals of the enemy country through war. In the long run, it was not impossible for him to catch up to, or even surpass those empire-level lord factions with deep foundations. As for comparing him to the lord of the cerulean planet, with his current level of development, if he still wanted to compete with the lords of the cerulean planet, he would be too narrow-minded. Under the cleansing of the first two events, Zhou's current goal was to be the strongest lords of the myriad races, including even the powerful local lord factions that had existed for thousands of years. The Night Empire, the Elven Empire, and even the High and Mighty Empire Kingdom. That was the target he was chasing. This was not arrogance. Instead, he was confident and prepared for the worst. Then, Zhou did not think too much about it. He took out 10 white platinum tier Lord Talent crystal fragments and fused them into a white platinum tier Lord Talent origin divine crystals. Then he chose to use them. A text notification appeared. As you have 3 yellow gold tier Lord Talents, Monster Ranch, Insight Defection, and Mysterious Caravan, please choose one to level up. I choose to advance to Insight Defection, Zhou said without hesitation. The other yellow gold tier Lord Talents were also very good. However, for now, it was best to increase the effect of Insight Defection. Therefore, he chose Insight Defection. Even though he still had other white platinum tier Lord Talent crystal fragments that could be used to upgrade Monster Ranch or Mysterious Caravan to the platinum level, he wanted to keep it so that he could raise the blessing of the war god to the legendary tier, or even the mythical tier level. Lord Talent has been chosen. Upgrading in progress. The next second, a familiar warm feeling came from between his eyebrows. The warmth faded. A new text notification appeared. Lord Talent upgrade successful. Congratulations, your yellow gold tier Lord Talent Insight Defection has been upgraded to white platinum tier Lord Talent Insight Defection. You have leveled up to white platinum tier Lord Talent effect Lord Talent. Insight Defection, white platinum tier. Insight Defection, a lord's exclusive talent. When you fight the enemy lord's faction head-on, you can activate the Insight Defection talent and make 16% of the enemy lord's faction your loyal subordinate. Lord Talent Hint 1. The minimum number of enemies you can insight using the Insight Defection is 1 unit, and the maximum number of enemies you can insight using the Insight Defection is 1 million units. The loyalty of the enemies after using Insight Defection will be at least 89 points. Lord Talent Hint 2. Currently, the upper limit of the Lord faction level that you can Insight Defection is the mid-level God tier elementary grade Lord faction. This upper limit can grow. Lord Talent Hint 3. This talent can only be activated once a day. Zhou looked at the white platinum tier Insight Defection information and smiled. The effect of the white platinum tier Insight Defection was not bad. Firstly, the percentage of Insight Defection had increased from 12% to 16%. Secondly, the upper limit of the number of enemies for insight defection had increased from 300,000 to 1 million. Finally, the upper limit of the insight defection faction directly increased from low-tier deity level elementary grade to mid-tier deity level elementary grade. It was super awesome. He looked at his Lord Talent crystal fragment and realized that it could continue to level up. Seeing this, he continued to level up without hesitation. However, before that, he first took out 29,000 green bronze tier Lord Talent crystal fragments, 110 yellow gold tier Lord Talent crystal fragments, 50 white platinum tier Lord Talent crystal fragments, and 1 diamond tier Lord Talent crystal fragment, and fused them into a diamond tier Lord Talent origin divine crystals. Then, he upgraded insight defection to diamond tier. The probability of insight defection increasing again for diamond tier insight defection, reaching 20%. Then, he took out another 10 extraordinary tier Lord Talent crystal fragments and fused them into an extraordinary tier Lord Talent origin divine crystals, upgrading insight defection to the extraordinary tier. Lord Talent, insight defection extraordinary tier. Insight defection, a Lord's exclusive talent. When you fight the enemy Lord's faction head-on, you can activate the insight defection talent and make 25% of the enemy Lord's faction your loyal subordinate. Lord Talent Hint 1. The minimum number of enemies you can insight using the insight defection is 1 unit, and the maximum number of enemies you can insight using the insight defection is 5 million units. The loyalty of the enemies after using insight defection will be at least 89 points. Lord Talent Hint 2. Currently, the upper limit of the Lord faction level that you can insight defection is the high-level God tier elementary grade Lord faction. This upper limit can grow. Lord Talent Notification 3. This talent can only be activated twice a day. Lord Talent Notification. This talent cannot be activated twice against the same Lord faction in the same day. What a powerful extraordinary tier insight defection. The insight defection ratio has actually reached 25%. Doesn't that mean that once I use insight defection, the other party will directly send a quarter of their military strength under my command? And the number of times it can be activated every day has increased to 2. Jojo was pleasantly surprised. This was an unprecedented improvement. He did not expect it to increase in the number of times it could be activated at the extraordinary tier. Then, he opened the Lord group and upgraded the insight defection level of his lords to diamond tier. This was already the limit of his improvement. This way, his lords would also have a 20% insight defection percentage ability when using insight defection in the future. This could be said to be a huge improvement for them. Chapter 606 Ranking the Lords were in an uproar when Jojo shared the diamond tier insight defection Lord talent. A large number of comments immediately appeared in the Lord group of the Star Alliance. Your Majesty is awesome. I offer my knees to His Majesty. My subject asked me why I was kneeling and looking at the chat group. Fuck. A 20% insight defection ratio. In other words, 1/5 of the enemy will belong to me once I use insight defection? So heaven-defying? It's indeed a little ridiculous. It would be a cheat if this was in an alternate world web novel. The title will be Rebirth. I became a king with insight defection in an alternate world. I want your title. I'll start writing novels now. I welcome everyone to subscribe to my latest novel chapters at my trading table. Awesome. I really want to give it a try. Unfortunately, it's dark. This scarlet fog really makes me feel uncomfortable. This Lord talent is too heaven-defying. I feel that it's not inferior to the legendary tier Lord talent. You're too narrow-minded. If you know how strong a true legendary tier Lord talent is, you'll know that even though this Lord talent is diamond tier, it's still reasonable. Think about His Majesty's blessing of the War Master God tier. Do you understand? Now that you mention it, I suddenly feel that diamond tier makes sense. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. No, I can't sleep anymore. I'm so excited that I won't be able to sleep tonight. Ahem, everyone pay attention to your image. We're just lifestyle lords. Yes, lifestyle lords laughing. Hold tight to His Majesty's thigh. I knew that following His Majesty was the right choice back then. Zhou looked at the Lord's chat in the chat group and smiled without saying anything. Actually, he was also looking forward to tomorrow. With his extraordinary tier insight defection and the diamond tier insight defection of the Star Alliance, his new military strength every day would begin to increase explosively in the future. Perhaps he could deal with all the scarlet monsters surrounding the entire Night Empire alone. Of course, this goal was too far away. He had to take it slow. Then, he looked at the Lord Talent Crystal Fragment he had. After the consumption just now, he still had 55,542 Black Iron Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 13,617 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 279 White Silver Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 165 Yellow Gold Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 1 Diamond Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragment, 8 Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 9 Epic Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 2 Legendary Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, 6 Mythical Tier Unique Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. There are too few high-level Lord Talent Crystal Fragments. Otherwise, I can completely upgrade my Insight Defection to the Epic tier, or upgrade the Blessing of the War God to the Legendary tier. Zhou thought regretfully. However, even though he was regretful, he was not too disappointed. This was because there was a huge number of lords, local lords, and scarlet lords participating in the King of 10,000 Kings event in front of him. This was dangerous, but it was also an opportunity for him to obtain a large number of Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, or even a new Lord Talent. Just like today, he had obtained 13,100 Green Bronze Tier Lord Talent Crystal Fragments, and 1 Diamond Tier Lord Talent. After he increased his strength, he could completely obtain more and better Lord Talent Crystal Fragments and Lord Talents. Thinking of this, Zhou looked forward to it even more. And the consequence was that he was experiencing insomnia. He took a deep breath and opened the function icon of the King of 10,000 Kings. Then, he clicked on the Kingdom/Empire faction points ranking inside. 2 rankings appeared in front of him. They were the Night Empire's rankings and the Elven Empire's rankings. Zhou first looked at the Night Empire's rankings. Night Empire faction points rankings. First place, Blazing Sun Kingdom, Lord of the Blazing Sun 6, 1 million faction points. Second place, Green Phoenix City, Green Phoenix Lord, 102,000 faction points. Third place, Spiritual Medicine City, Spiritual Medicine Lord, 98,400 faction points. Fourth place, Paper Immortal City, Paper Immortal Lord, 43,500 faction points. Zhou's expression did not change. This ranking was also within his expectations. He had accepted the Night Empire's only legendary tier advanced grade quests after all. It would be strange if his faction points could not be ranked first under such circumstances. As for the remaining people from the 2nd place to the 26th place, they were all occupied by the lords of his Star Alliance. They had also received their legendary tier advanced grade assistance quests after all. It was more than enough to help them enter the rankings. Then, he opened the Night Empire camp channel and took a rough look. In the end, he realized that there were already more than 200,000 lords of all races gathered in the Night Empire faction channel. Among them were the Dragon Race Lord, the Spirit Nether Race Lord, the Goat Head Race Lord, and the Radiant Light Race Lord. The lords of all races looked at Zhou in a dazzling manner. Of course, there were also human lords, and even Cerulean Planet's human lords. And there were many of them. This was because the Supreme Will did not arrange the initial territory of the lords of all races randomly. It was often arranged according to the principle of the proximity of the races. For example, the lords of the Cerulean Planet would definitely be close to a local lord faction. For example, Zhou's initial territory was close to the Aurora Kingdom. The other lords of all races were the same. Speaking of which, perhaps it was because they were both human lords. So at that moment, they were all publicizing on the camp channel that the Lord of the Blazing Sun had reached the top of the rankings, even though they were not the ones who reached the top. However, as humans, They also felt honored when they saw the Lord of the Blazing Sun reach the top. Otherwise, even the Night Empire would probably not feel good if the human Night Empire's camp was reached by a lord of the people of foreign race. So many lords of all races joined on the first day. In a few days, more lords of all races should join the Night Empire. They should make the Night Empire's situation better. Zhou pondered. However, even so, he could not rely on them to save the Night Empire. They had only developed for a short period of time after all. They had few soldiers under their command and were weak. No matter how many lords there were, they could only be cannon fodder on the current battlefield. The power of cannon fodder could only relieve the situation and not determine the outcome of the battle. In the end, Zhou looked at the fanatical comments praising him on the camp channel and smiled. Then, he closed the camp channel and opened the Elven Empire's faction points rankings. Elven Empire faction points ranking. First place. Underground King City, Dark Emperor Lord, 54,000 faction points. Second place. Light God City, Light Envoy Lord, 49,000 faction points. Third place. Nature City, Lord of Harmony, 38,800 faction points. Fourth place. Winterfrost City, Lord of Winterfrost, 15,000 faction points. Chapter 607 Method to break out of the situation. Illusionary Heavenly Fate. Zhou looked at the rankings. He was naturally not at the top of this ranking. He had yet to complete the faction quests of the Elven Empire after all. His faction points were still 0. However, he didn't do both since this King of 10,000 Kings event would last for a month. He would be a true hero only by having the last laugh. He was confident that he could quickly break through the rankings when his Elven Empire faction quests began. Zhou opened the Lord of All Races faction points ranking and looked at it. Myriad Races Lord faction points ranking. First place. Original Spirit Race, True Lord, 15,405,100 faction points. Second place. Shepherd's God Race, Heaven Chasing Lord, 14,456,000 faction points. Third place. Chaos Divine City, Great One Lord, 13,206,000 faction points. Fourth place. Myriad Spirit Race, Spiritual Venerable Lord, 12,601,000 faction points. 19th. Human Race, the Lord of the Blazing Sun, 6,100,000 faction points. Zhou's expression froze. He had only reached 19th place. He originally thought that he could enter the top 5 of the myriad races with his advantage. He did not expect to not even enter the top 10. He frowned and thought for a while. Then his expression became serious. Is this because of the racial foundation by the strongest races? Zhou muttered to himself. He could rely on his relationship with the humans and elves to obtain the strongest faction quests of these two lineups. These top-notch races had developed for countless years and accumulated countless connections and resources from national-level lord factions. With these connections, it was too easy for them to obtain a large number of faction quests. He only had the faction quests of the 2 strongest empire factions. The other party might have already obtained more than 10, or even dozens of faction quests from the Kingdom faction, or even the Empire faction. After all, they were lords of all races from a top race. The great race behind them would definitely help it with all their might. As for the other kingdoms and empires, they might even take the initiative to rope them in order to curry favor with the civilizations behind these top lords. Then, they would give them the best faction quests in their faction. This seemed to be Zhou's guess. However, it was very likely to become a reality under the drive of benefits. Moreover, it had become a reality. Thinking of this, Zhou frowned slightly. At this moment, no matter how many lord talents he had, he could not think of what to do. This was the crushing of the civilization and foundation of the race. It was not something a lord of all races who had just arrived in the high continent for less than a month could resist. Why don't I also find the human kingdoms and empires to help me accept a few faction quests with more faction points? Zhou thought. With his current status in the human race, it was very likely that the higher-ups of the human race would help him. Then he quickly shook his head and gave up on this idea. This method was useful but not much. Even the human kingdoms and empires could not compare to the connections and resources of those top-notch race civilizations. In the end, it was indeed possible for him to increase by hundreds of millions, or even billions of faction points, if he gathered the strength of the entire human race. However, the other party might already have hundreds of billions of lineup points. What should we do? Zhou muttered to himself. There was only one lord of all races. If he did not want to be eliminated, he had to seize any opportunity to strengthen himself. To be honest, with the mythical tier lord talent, the king of loots, he might have the strength to fight these top lords of all races in the future, if he gathered countless lord talents. However, it was naturally better to be stronger. What else do I have to break out of this situation? Zhou muttered to himself. The night passed. Intermediate grade lord's paradise. In the quiet room, Zhou sat cross-legged on a golden futon with his eyes closed. He frowned, as if he was thinking about something. His skin was a little pale, as if he had exhausted a lot of his spirit. After a long time, his body trembled slightly before he opened his bloodshot eyes. I found it. His voice was hoarse. Even though his voice sounded a little tired, it also sounded relaxed. There was one thing recorded in the legendary tier dragon race inheritance of the light sacred dragon. Zhou muttered to himself. More than 12,600 years ago, a scarlet divine kingdom called Battleaxe led 46 scarlet empires, and more than 10,000 crimson kingdoms, to launch a large-scale invasion against the local lord forces in the northeast of the high continent. At that time, the local lord forces were in a hurry, and were hurriedly forced to counterattack. From the beginning of the war, the total military strength of both sides reached more than 1 trillion. This war even alarmed the Supreme Will. The Supreme Will immediately released an event called Breaking Battleaxe at that time. It was to encourage the lords of all races to resist the invasion of the Scarlet Divine Kingdom together. At that time, countless top-notch race civilizations wanted to be the first in this Broken Battleaxe event, and obtain the final reward of the Supreme Will. In the end, those top-notch race civilizations never expected this. In the end, this final reward was obtained by an intermediate-level race civilization called the Illusory Fate Race. Zhou's eyes were dark. At that time, no one knew how this Illusory Fate Race did it. However, the legendary tier dragon among the dragons, the Spacetime Divine Dragon, accidentally discovered the secret of the Illusory Fate Race's victory through his master divine artifact, the Spacetime Mirror. So the Illusory Fate Race has grasped a heaven-defying divination bloodline talent called the Illusionary Heavenly Fate. Through this bloodline talent, it divined the location of the main Scarlet General of the hidden Battleaxe Divine Kingdom. It even found the location of the Divine Kingdom's Great Marshal, who led the Scarlet Army at that time. Then, the other party unconditionally released the positions of all the Scarlet Generals and the Scarlet Marshal. The next day, countless god spirits appeared where they were and assassinated more than 90% of the generals and the most important Grand Marshal of the hidden Battleaxe Divine Kingdom. After this battle, the hidden Battleaxe Divine Kingdom suffered a huge blow. We have to admit that the invasion failed and escaped from the high continent in a sorry state. As a result, the Broken Battleaxe event ended. Even though the Illusory Life Race has never assassinated any Scarlet General, they influenced the outcome of this invasion war. Therefore, the other party was recognized by the Supreme Will as the final winner of the Broken Battleaxe event, and obtained the final reward of the Supreme Will. Can I replicate the method of the Illusory Fate Race? Zhou muttered to himself. He pondered for a long time, and felt that this was not impossible. However, before that, he had to find the Illusory Fate Race first, and use the Illusory Heavenly Fate bloodline talent they controlled to break out of the situation. Chapter 608 3 Goods. 30 million military forces. After the Illusory Life Race obtained the final reward of the Supreme Will back then, they knew that they were already guilty of possessing a treasure, and cleverly disappeared from the world. With a top-notch divination bloodline talent, like the Illusionary Heavenly Fate, Even those top-notch race civilizations could not find their hiding place. However, this did not include the legendary tier dragon race, the space-time divine dragon. With the space-time mirror divine artifact, he easily saw that they were hiding in an independent small world, called the Myriad Illusions Small World. However, the space-time divine dragon was already at the Master God tier level back then. The myriad treasures in the endless heavens, even the treasures rewarded by the supreme will, would not move he. Only treasures that could break through to the supreme level could attract their interest. Therefore, the space-time divine dragon only treated this matter as a play. After watching it, it turned around and forgot about it. He would only think of it when he was bored and mention this matter to relieve everyone's boredom, when he occasionally encountered the light sacred dragon and other legendary tier dragons. Therefore, this matter was also recorded by the light sacred dragon and the other legendary tier dragons in their secret inheritance. However, most of them were also Master God tier existences. Naturally, he was not interested in such a treasure. However, Zhou wanted to make use of it now. The Myriad Illusions Small World. If the Elven Empire is the initial coordinates, it's about 60 billion kilometers southeast of the Elven Empire. Zhou recalled the secret inheritance of the legendary tier dragon race and compared it to the current map of the High Continent to find the location of the Myriad Illusions Small World. It happened more than 12,000 years ago after all. Under the vast sea and mulberry fields, many places in the High Continent had undergone a huge change in the terrain, and there were even tectonic shifts. Many kingdoms, and even empires had already disappeared throughout the long river of time. If Zhou searched according to the place the space-time divine dragon had told the light sacred dragon, there was a high chance that he would not be able to find the Myriad Illusions Small World. Fortunately, even though the High Continent had already been in existence for more than 10,000 years, the ancient empire of the Elven Empire still existed. He could still find the approximate location of the Myriad Illusions Small World with it as the memory point. After finding the direction, Zhou heaved a sigh of relief. It was different from before. He could not resist even if he wanted to. This is the inheritance of the race civilization. Zhou sighed inwardly. If not for the fact that this matter was recorded in the legendary tier dragon inheritance of the light sacred dragon, he would probably not be able to resolve the current predicament, no matter how many lord talents he had. From a certain perspective, this usually inconspicuous inheritance was even more valuable than the bloodline talents he had obtained. It was even enough for him to fight against top-notch civilizations like the original spirit race, the Chaos Gods race, and the Shepherd's God race at certain times. He got up and walked out of the quiet room. Only then did he realize that it was already the next morning. Zhou shook his head and went to the Lord's shop without thinking too much. As soon as he arrived at the Lord's shop, he saw Zhou Qingmin looking at him bitterly. Zhou was stunned for a moment before reacting. He seemed to have promised the other party yesterday that he would play games with her tonight. In the end, he forgot about this because he was thinking about how to break out of the situation. "I'm sorry. I was delayed yesterday and did not manage to come." Zhou Qingmin looked at Zhou's pale face and sighed helplessly. Then he said seriously, "Your Majesty, rest well for the next 2 days. Look at you. It's very easy for others to misunderstand. I'll try my best to find excellent goods for Your Majesty. Your Majesty, you still have to prioritize your health." Zhou was stunned for a moment before smiling. Last night, in order to find a way to break out of this situation and immerse himself in the various bloodline inheritances in his body, he had indeed consumed a lot of energy. However, it was naturally not a big problem with his physique. He cast the chaos healing technique on himself, and his expression instantly returned to normal. He was even much better than usual. Seeing this, Zhou Qingmin did not say anything else. He took out 3 silver boxes from under the counter. Zhou looked at them one by one. In the first silver box was a diamond tier intermediate grade skill book called Weapon Repair. In the second box was a talent crystal called Demon Sense. In the third box was a talent crystal called the Sun of Space. Zhou looked at the specific information of these goods. Skill name, Weapon Repair. Skill quality. Diamond tier intermediate grade. Skill description. You have a large amount of weapon repair knowledge. You can repair most weapons below the diamond tier intermediate grade. If you lack the corresponding repair materials, you can inject the energy in your body into the weapon, allowing the weapon to have all the weapon effects during the undamaged period for a short period of time. The specific repair effect depends on the level of the weapons and the total amount and quality of energy injected. Talent. Demon sense, talent effect. Your sense of smell is very sharp. You can easily sense all kinds of smells contained in the air. You can immediately discover the location of the demons through your sharp sense of smell when they appear around you. Talent. Son of space, talent effect. Your talent in the law of space is like the darling of the law of space. You can easily comprehend spatial skills, and even have a small chance of comprehending the law of space series of law skills. The diamond tier intermediate grade weapon repair, and the talent demon sense, came from the demon hunter, who just arrived in the territory yesterday. As for the talent of the son of space, I don't seem to have any impression of it. Zhou scratched his head. After his territory's subjects merged with the 4 countries, there were already more than 30 million soldiers. With so many subjects, he naturally could not understand the talent and abilities of every subject. However, he didn't mind, and just asked Zhou Qingmin about the prices of these 3 goods. Diamond tier intermediate grade weapon repair is worth 50 diamond tier mist cores. The talent demon sense is worth 20 legendary tier mist cores, while the talent son of space is worth 500 legendary tier mist cores. Zhou Qingmin said. Why doesn't the cost include territory tokens? Zhou was stunned. Does my majesty have it if I asked for it? Zhou Qingmin said expressionlessly. Zhou smiled as he handed the other party 520 legendary tier mist cores and 50 diamond tier mist cores, without saying anything else. He then proceeded to learn all of the skills. Right on the heels of that, he went to the gate of summoning without stopping, and summoned the 4,000 subjects today. Then, he led his troops to clean up the monster ranch, and obtained another 4,331,650 soldier-type recruitment books. Zhou threw these recruitment books into the gate of summoning, increasing the number of troops under his command to 20,004,936. Zhou looked at these soldiers and smiled. Coupled with the more than 9 million troops of the Star Alliance, it was a total of nearly 30 million troops. This military strength should be comparable to some veteran lord factions of the intermediate grade kingdom, right? Zhou thought to himself. Just as he was feeling happy, he saw Jing Yuanqi walking over with a solemn expression. Chapter 609 Universal Mobile Phones. Hijacked refugees. Your Majesty, something very strange happened. Zhang Yuanqi said solemnly. Why? Zhou was stunned. No new subjects came to seek refuge outside our Blazing Sun Kingdom today. Not a single one. Zhang Yuanqi said seriously. This situation is extremely abnormal. Logically speaking, even if the influence of the optimization of appearance decreases, there should gradually be fewer subjects coming to join our Blazing Sun Kingdom, unlike now, when suddenly no refugees come. I suspect that there's something behind this. Zhou frowned. Could those refugees have gone to other cities in the King of the Blazing Sun? He thought for a moment and said, after the Blazing Sun Kingdom annexed the former Taiyan Kingdom, the former Aurora Kingdom, the former Titan Kingdom, and the former Netherbark Kingdom, the higher-ups of the Blazing Sun Kingdom did not give up on many cities in their territory. Instead, they chose to take over and rebuild them as the new residents of all the subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom to relieve the population pressure of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. It was not impossible for those new refugees to join other cities in the Blazing Sun Kingdom on the way here, instead of choosing to come to the capital. In any case, he could also enjoy the enhancement of beauty and other lord talents by joining other cities in the Blazing Sun Kingdom. That won't happen. Your Majesty, I've already instructed the other territories and cities of the Blazing Sun Kingdom that if they accept the refugees, they must call the capital immediately and gather the most outstanding talents to the capital, so that we can gather resources to nurture and train them, and develop the potential of these talents as much as possible. I haven't received any calls from the city lords of other regional territories, which means that they definitely haven't received refugees. Zheng Yuanqi said, "That's right. The Blazing Sun Kingdom had telephones. This was not strange since both the Black Ghost and Starry Night had communication systems after all." Zhou Zhou only asked Wunya to modify the communication system into a personal civilian model through the research room function of the spaceship. Telephones were easily made. And now, the officials of the Blazing Sun Kingdom already had phones. After building a few more phone manufacturing factories and increasing the production, all subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom could completely each have a phone. This was a level that even the military industry lord, who was developing the technology of the Cerulean planet with all his might, could not achieve. Did the soldiers in charge of protecting the refugees along the way discover any refugees coming? Zhou Zhou asked again. No, not a single one. However, I've already asked Legion Commander Wu Tu to send soldiers to the surrounding area to check what happened. Zhou Zhou nodded. Then he called Bai Yin over. Your Majesty, Bai Yin said respectfully, today, you will lead the troops to the Night Empire to continue the faction quests there. I have something else to do, Zhou Zhou said. Then, he clenched his right hand slightly, and a ball of blood energy gradually appeared, quickly forming a blood bat avatar. Then he handed this avatar to Bai Yin. I'll leave this blood bat avatar with you. I will observe the situation on your side through this blood bat avatar. After each teleportation array you attack, you can occupy the territory of the lowest level Scarlet Lord. Inform me immediately if anything happens. I'll rush over immediately. Zhou Zhou said. He had the Lord talent of return to the city, and could teleport through his territory. It was very convenient to use it to provide support. The current him, as the strongest combatant of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, could personally fight when the time came, and with his safety assured. Yes, Your Majesty, Bai Yin said respectfully. At this moment, a soldier flew over from the distant sky. He carried a little girl on his back, and flew quickly in Zhou Zhou's direction. Then, he landed on the ground and said respectfully to Zhou Zhou, Your Majesty, Prime Minister, we've already investigated the whereabouts of the refugees who came to our Blazing Sun Kingdom. After we flew out of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, we followed the main road and scouted into the distance. Then we found this little girl. Her name is Ying Ning. When we found her, she was hiding in an empty tree stump. At that time, her clothes were tattered and covered in blood. It was as if she had experienced a fight. We first treated and appeased her. Then, we learned from her that she and a group of relatives and friends originally wanted to join our Blazing Sun Kingdom. They were hijacked by a group of creatures covered in ice blue ice on the way here. Ying Ning's relatives and friends have all been captured, and her mother is a life professional. She tried her best to cover her in order to let her escape. After that, we discovered her. Ying Ning still has some injuries, but we've already done the initial treatment. She's basically fine. She should recover in half a month. The soldier said. Zhou Zhou's gaze landed on the little girl. At this moment, this little girl called Ying Ning had already changed into clean clothes. She looked very clean. However, her face was pale, and her body trembled from time to time. She had been in a state of panic. Obviously, the fear that the monsters had caused her was still affecting her. Zhou Zhou squatted down and reached out to touch her hair. Chaos Healing Technique. Activate. A faint chaotic origin energy was slowly released from his hand and flowed throughout Ying Ning's body, healing all her external and internal injuries. Originally, Ying Ning's face was very pale, but under the treatment of the Chaos Healing Technique, her face quickly regained its rosy color, and her eyes gradually lit up. Moreover, he did not know if it was because the level of the Chaos Healing Technique was too high. The fear in the little girl's eyes lessened by more than half after the healing. Thank you, Big Brother, Ying Ning said gratefully. It's okay. Big Brother, are you the king of the Blazing Sun Kingdom? Even though Ying Ning was young, she was very smart. She had already guessed that this good-looking big brother in front of her was the king of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, that their mother had been talking about from everyone's conversation just now. Right. Zhou nodded gently. Big Brother King. Please save my mother. When mother asked me to escape, she kept shouting for me to come to the Blazing Sun Kingdom, to look for His Majesty. She said that Your Majesty is a benevolent and powerful human king. Big Brother will definitely be able to save Ning's family, right? Ning's eyes were filled with sparkling tears. Zhou looked at the crying Ning, and his expression turned serious. Don't worry. I'll definitely save your relatives and friends. Zhou said seriously. Even though those subjects had yet to join his Blazing Sun Kingdom, they were already subjects of his country in his heart. As the king of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, abducting his subjects was undoubtedly a provocation to him. He would definitely make those enemies pay 10 times, or 100 times the price. Thank you, Big Brother King. Ning immediately hugged Zhou's hand and cried loudly. Zhou did not say anything and only patted Ning's back gently. The others did not say anything. However, their expressions were a little heavy. This child did not cry along the way. She only dared to cry when she saw His Majesty agree to save her family. It could be seen how much pressure she was under. Zhou pursed his lips when he saw Ning crying. If it was on the cerulean planet or Earth, this child should still be in elementary school and playing happily with other children of the same age, right? The Ice Demon Kingdom, Zhou muttered to himself. His voice gradually became a little cold. After hearing the soldier's description, he immediately thought of the Ice Demon race in the Ice Demon Kingdom. Only they would have the physical characteristics described by Ning. Chapter 6:10 Fury 1. Zhou's expression was cold. Originally, he planned to head to the Myriad Illusions small world and find the illusory fate race. However, after what had happened, Zhou immediately changed his mind and decided to save the kidnapped refugees first. Firstly, they were all his future subjects. As their future king, he could not abandon them. Secondly, the king of 10,000 kings had only advanced to the second day. There was still time. He was not in a hurry to immediately look for the illusory life race. Thirdly, as an adult, how could he let down a child's promise? Since she was asking for help, he would provide her that immediately. He asked Zheng Yuanqi to preside over the matters of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Then, he called Qi Xiantian, Suan, and Wu Tu to board a starry night and fly towards the Ice Demon Kingdom. At the border of the Ice Demon Kingdom, an ice ghost in ice blue armor was chatting with a human in dark red clothes. His Majesty the Ice Ghost King is indeed wise and divine. He actually captured tens of millions of humans. If so many humans become slaves, the Ice Demon Kingdom's national strength will increase by at least 10%, right? When I come to plunder once a day in the future, the Ice Demon Kingdom will be promoted to a high-level kingdom, or even an empire. Zheng Chu said fawningly. Ice Demon General. Asa had an arrogant and smug expression. The so-called tens of millions of humans are just a group of ants. Moreover, they're a group of ants with delusions. They actually want to secretly pass through my Ice Demon Kingdom and join the Blazing Sun Kingdom? Don't they know that the Blazing Sun Kingdom is our Ice Demon Kingdom's mortal enemy? He has a death wish. Since they don't know what's good for them, well, capture them all and make them slaves of our Ice Demon Kingdom. Coincidentally, my Ice Demon Kingdom has many deep ice crystal mines that require a large number of slaves to mine. These tens of millions of humans should be able to mine billions of tons of deep ice crystals for our Ice Demon Kingdom. Lord Asa is right. I just wonder, when will the benefits you promised me be fulfilled? Zheng Chu said. His eyes were burning with anticipation. He was originally a human lord of the cerulean planet. His initial territory was near the Ice Demon Kingdom. Originally, there was a human kingdom nearby, but later on, this human kingdom was quickly destroyed by the Ice Demon Kingdom. Zheng Chu was very afraid when he found out about this. The human kingdom was already a height that he could only dream of. He did not expect the Ice Demon Kingdom to be even stronger. He was very afraid. He was afraid that one day, he would also be destroyed by the Ice Demon Kingdom. After all, even the human kingdom could not survive from the hands of the Ice Demon Kingdom. What was a mere lord of the human race? And so he tossed and turned, thinking of a way to save himself. After thinking about it, he decided to join him. However, joining the other party required a show of loyalty, so Zheng Chu was vexed again. However, he was not vexed for long this time. This was because 2 days ago, he suddenly realized that a large number of refugees were gathering from all directions and moving in the same direction. Through sending people to ask, Zheng Chu quickly found out that all of them actually wanted to join the Blazing Sun Kingdom and become subjects of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Moreover, most of them were actually female subjects. There was no lack of female rich women and female professionals or both. Their reasons for going to the Blazing Sun Kingdom were similar. There were mainly 3 reasons. The first reason was to become beautiful and handsome by joining the Blazing Sun Kingdom. The second reason was that they had heard that the Blazing Sun Kingdom was a habitable place for the peace and prosperity. Therefore, they had come all the way here to live in such a paradise that was not affected by war. The third reason was the first 2 reasons, and the comprehensive version. When Zheng Chu found out about this, he was extremely jealous and afraid. His kingdom was beside the territory of the Ice Demon Kingdom. It was neither close nor far from the Blazing Sun Kingdom. If the Blazing Sun Kingdom continued to become stronger, his expansion range would sooner or later include his territory. If an unambitious lord knew about this, they might recognize the difference and directly surrender to the Lord of the Blazing Sun. The lords of Cerulean Planet on the World Channel all knew one thing after all. The lords of the Star Alliance under the King of the Blazing Sun were all dozens, or even hundreds of times stronger than before he joined the Star Alliance. Becoming a subordinate of the Lord of the Blazing Sun might mean losing his status as a lord and the possibility of continuing to fight for supremacy, but they would definitely live very comfortably. He would definitely not lose the chance to become stronger. The King of the Blazing Sun would definitely not mistreat his subordinates after all. As long as you don't have any thoughts of rebelling against the King of the Blazing Sun, he will definitely nurture you as one of his own. However, Zheng Chu was unwilling. The Lord gave him a taste of power. It was impossible for him to give up his status as a lord of all races and become someone else's subordinate. Therefore, he thought of the Ice Demon Kingdom. Therefore, he told the higher-ups of the Ice Demon Kingdom about the Human Refugee Association, passing through the border of the Ice Demon Kingdom and heading to the Blazing Sun Kingdom as a token of his allegiance. He knew everything that happened after that. The Ice Demon Kingdom had sent troops to ambush the refugees on the way to the Blazing Sun Kingdom today. Then they had easily captured tens of millions of human refugees. The Ice Demon Kingdom was naturally overjoyed. When Zheng Chu saw this scene, he hesitated and could not bear to see it. After all, he knew what would happen to these tens of millions of human refugees. However, he quickly cut off this thought. Every man for himself. Please go to hell for my bright future. You want 10,000 sets of military equipment, right? Go back and wait in peace. Ice Demon General, Asa said calmly. Zheng Chu was stunned for a moment before asking carefully. Can you give me a precise time? As you know, our Lord of all races is currently experiencing the King of 10,000 Kings event announced by the Supreme Will. My territory is not strong. I really need these 10,000 sets of conventional military equipment now. I said go back and wait. Are you deaf? Ice Demon General. Asa looked at him coldly, his tone filled with an unquestionable tone. Zheng Chu was stunned for a moment before his face turned red and white. Then I'll go back and wait. He forced a smile and nodded. Then he turned around and walked towards his territory. The further they walked, the redder his face became, the more blue veins appeared on his face. He was already furious to the extreme. Then, he took a deep breath and forcefully calmed the anger in his heart. Don't be angry, don't be angry. I want to get 10,000 sets of conventional military equipment first. When my strength advances by leaps and bounds, I will definitely avenge today's humiliation. He gritted his teeth. You sold tens of millions of human refugees, just for 10,000 sets of conventional military equipment. At this moment, a cold and murderous voice sounded. Zheng Chu was shocked and looked up. He saw an extremely handsome man in the Emperor Dragon robe standing not far away and looking at it coldly. Beside him were a sword immortal, an assassin and a cartographer. All of them emitted the aura of terrifying high-level experts. King of the Blazing Sun, Zheng Chu said in fear. Zhou Zhou's photo had long circulated on the World Channel. That person's appearance was unforgettable to countless people. Zheng Chu was no exception. However, when he saw Zhou Zhou, his heart was filled with fear. Without thinking, he turned around and fled. At this moment, Qi Xiantian, who was beside Zhou Zhou, looked coldly at the fleeing Zheng Chu and extended his right hand. Zheng Chu's body stiffened. He realized that he could not move at all. Then he flew back to Zhou Zhou and knelt down uncontrollably. Zhou Zhou and the others looked at him coldly. They were all furious. Especially Zhou Zhou. He had never been so angry before. For the sake of his own strength, he sold the lives of tens of millions of his fellow humans. This could be considered the largest traitor on the cerulean planet. Such bad and stupid traitors were rare, even in this treacherous high continent. Chapter 611 Fury 2. Your Majesty, let me end him. Qi Xiantian said coldly. He did not like to kill the weak, because he preferred to challenge the strong. However, the person in front of him was an exception. Don't kill me. I know where those humans are imprisoned. Zheng Chu said in fear. Oh, where are they? Zhou Zhou looked at him calmly. Promise me first that you'll spare my life, and I'll tell you this secret. Otherwise, if we're too late, those humans will be transferred away by the Ice Demon Kingdom. Zheng Chu's eyes flickered. Zhou Zhou said nothing. He casually took out the lowest grade black iron tier elementary grade sword from his spatial ring and placed it on Zheng Chu's neck. Under Zheng Chu's disbelieving gaze, he sliced off his opponent's head. Then, he casually used his chaotic origin energy to destroy the corpse, not even leaving a soul behind. Come on, Zhou Zhou said calmly as he casually threw the sword away. Qi Xiantian, and the others nodded and left. Ice Demon Kingdom, Bloody Lake Harbor. Zhou Zhou and the other three floated in the air and looked down at the Ice Demon Kingdom's port. A blood-red lake lay quietly on the ground. At least 1 million life forms have died in this Bloody Lake Harbor. Suen said, cut open this lake. Tens of millions of human refugees are under this lake. But be careful. There's an epic tier guardian in the Bloody Lake. Don't screw up. Zhou Zhou said. He had high-level telepathy and could easily sense the inner thoughts of living beings weaker than him. Therefore, when Zheng Chu begged him for mercy, he had already given Zhou Zhou the answer he wanted in his heart. That was why he had killed the other party without hesitation. He'll do it, Suen said. He took a step forward. Then he disappeared into the air. The next second, accompanied by a sharp whistle, a 700 to 800 meter long headless blood-red worm flew out of the bloody lake and fell on the land beside the Blood Lake port, twisting its body crazily. A large amount of dark purple blood spewed out of its neck. Originally, there were groups of Ice Demon clansmen transporting goods near the land of Bloody Lake Harbor. In the end, the blood-colored worm's struggle before it died crushed hundreds of Ice Demon clan members to death. The dark purple blood that sprayed out melted nearly 1,000 Ice Demon clan members. The blood god is dead. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Get the Ghost King Core immediately. All the Ice Demon clan members were either crying out in alarm, fear, or anger, making the scene a little noisy. At the same time above the bloody lake, in a motionless black ship, ripples appeared in the air, and then Suen walked out. Your Majesty, we've found the entrance. Tens of millions of human refugees are inside. But many refugees are injured, and a small number of refugees have already died. Suen transmitted his voice. Then, he looked around and saw more than 10 Ice Demon clan experts staring at him with their mouths agape. The weakest among them was an epic tier expert. There were even 3 legendary tier Ice Demon race experts. One of them was the Ice Demon General, Asa. Su An's eyes were cold, and he did not look afraid at all. The blood shadow sword in his right hand also let out sword cries. Kill him. You have a death wish. How dare you barge into our territory? Catch him alive. Be careful. Don't let him destroy the Sky Spirit ship. Ice Demon General, Asa and a dozen other Ice Demon race experts finally snapped out of their daze and charged toward Suin with furious expressions. Thick spatial power erupted, forming a spatial passageway with endless suction behind it, directly sucking it into the spatial rift. Suin calmly entered stealth mode and began to kill indiscriminately. Screams sounded. Suin walked out of the sky spirit ship with a calm expression. Even his clothes were not stained with any blood. Only the blood shadow sword in his hand was red and shiny. 100,000 ice demon soldiers appeared. This was the Ghost King army that the Ice Demon Kingdom had specially stationed here. It was in charge of protecting Bloody Lake Harbor, the official slave trading venue. So many Ice Demon clan members. Just as well. Coincidentally, my blood shadow sword isn't full yet. Suin said softly. His body began to grow rapidly. In just a few seconds, it grew to 15,000 meters tall before stopping. Then, a 1,000-meter-long ferocious red horn grew out of his head. Suin's fair face also turned as red as magma. Then he grew 2 more faces and 2 pairs of arms. Moreover, on the other arms that were not armed, another 5 blood shadow swords more than 7,000 meters long were formed and held by these 5 hands. Hero skill, Night Rakshasa true body. Witness death. Suin roared at the sky, his voice shaking the heavens and earth. Then, he quickly waved the 6 blood shadow swords. Every swing could take away hundreds of Ghost King army soldiers. The strongest person in the Ghost King army was only a legendary tier elementary grade Ice Demon King. Even though it was stronger than Suin, its combat strength was still far inferior to Suin without the enhancement of the hero slot. Therefore, he could only watch as Suin killed his legionaries on the battlefield. But there was nothing he could do. He could not save his own life. After a long time, the battlefield became deathly silent. Suin, who was in his Night Rakshasa sword god state, looked at the battlefield in front of him with his 6 blood-red Rakshasa blood eyes. After confirming that there were no survivors, the ruthlessness in his eyes gradually faded, and his body returned to normal. He lifted the sky spirit ship with one hand and flew in front of Zhou. I have not let His Majesty down. Well done. Zhou nodded. Then, he took the sky spirit ship and entered it with his consciousness. He looked at the scene inside the sky spirit ship. Inside the sky spirit ship, there was a continent of more than 1,000,000 square kilometers. On this main road, more than 10 million human refugees were gathered here. None of them were in a good state. Some of them were injured. Some had fainted due to excessive blood loss. Some had a fever due to infest. And some were incomplete. But they were still alive. Some of them had already become lifeless corpses. Zhou took a deep breath and looked in the direction of the Ice Demon King's capital. An extremely intense killing intent flashed across his eyes. However, he did not rush over immediately. The most important thing now was to save her. With a thought, he directly returned to the royal capital of the Blazing Sun City, through return to the city. Then, as he carefully released the tens of millions of humans in the empty spirit ship, he immediately gathered all the doctors in the territory to treat these humans. As for the dead refugees, they could no longer be revived with the small resurrection spell. This was because they had been dead for more than an hour. Under such circumstances, resurrection could only be achieved through the Great Resurrection spell. However, how could Zhou have so many Holy Spirit tier faith divine crystals? I can't resurrect you. Then I'll collect some interest for you first. Zhou muttered. With a thought, he contacted the Bloodbat avatar beside Bai Yun. Chapter 6:12 Breaking into the Ice Demon Kingdom. In front of an extraordinary tier advanced grade spatial teleportation array, the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom were currently cleaning up the battlefield. At the place where the Star Alliance masters gathered, a group of people surrounded a female lord and asked her all sorts of questions. The female lord was also quite excited. This is unbelievable. You guys saw it too, right? That's a total of 200,000 fog monsters. In the end, with just one insight defection, 40,000 fog monsters actually submitted to me. I only have 43,000 men. Today's insight defection directly doubled my military strength, the female lord said excitedly. The other Star Alliance masters were also envious. They had all shared the diamond tier insight defection. That 20% insight defection made everyone more eager to try. However, they had just come to complete the faction quests, and had not encountered many fog monsters. Therefore, only one lord was lucky enough to use the diamond tier insight defection. It had to be said, what he thought was different from what he saw with his own eyes. The lords were clearly looking forward to the effect of their insight defection, even more than when they first learned about the diamond tier insight defection. At this moment, Legion Commander Bai, come here. Did something happen? Are we setting off again? It's so fast today. That's good. I've long wanted to use insight defection. When everyone saw Bai Yin walking towards them, they discussed excitedly. Greetings, Legion Commander Bai. Everyone waited until Bai Yin was in front of them, and said politely. Bai Yin nodded. Everyone. His Majesty just sent an urgent order, saying that we should immediately return to the royal capital of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. A new war is waiting for us. She then told everyone about the tens of millions of humans being captured, and then rescued by Zhou. When everyone heard this, they were instantly furious. There was no need for Bai Yin to boost their morale at all. Everyone was filled with killing intent, expressing that they wanted to immediately rush back to the Blazing Sun Kingdom, and take revenge for the millions of humans. Nong Chunlin, who was one of the lords, nodded in his heart. Back then His Majesty wanted me to screen these people. Only qualified lords could join the Lord Alliance. Now it seemed that there was a reason. A moment later in the Blazing Sun Kingdom, when Zhou saw that Bai Yin and the others had returned, he did not waste any time, and directly brought them to the Ice Demon Kingdom. At the border of the Ice Demon Kingdom, Yellow Gold Tier Regional Territory, Black Valley City. In a starry night that was hidden in the interlayer of space, Zhou and the others were watching the situation outside, through a virtual screen floating in front of them. Your Majesty, when are we going to attack this Ice Demon Kingdom? The Green Phoenix Lord could not help but ask. She could not wait to start a war, and avenge the tens of millions of human refugees. Zhou said nothing. He was thinking about something. He thought for a moment, and asked everyone to wait for him in the spaceship. Then, he flew out of the starry night, and looked at the 50 starry night spaceships in front of him. Among the 50 starry night spaceships, other than him and the Star Alliance's nearly 30 million troops, the rest were carrying professionals in other aspects, as well as some rations and other war supplies. Zhou's gaze swept around and finally landed on one of the starry night spaceships carrying food. A black ship appeared beside him out of thin air. It was the Sky Spirit ship that Suen had just obtained from the Ice Demon Kingdom's Bloody Lake Harbor. This Sky Spirit ship had already been strictly inspected by the professionals in his territory. After eliminating some special devices, it could now be used safely and normally. Thereafter, he controlled the Sky Spirit ship, and placed the Starry Night into the space inside the Sky Spirit ship. Then he placed the other spaceships, including the spaceships carrying the soldiers, into the Sky Spirit ship. Then can I bring the Sky Spirit ship, and directly launch a pounce at the capital of their Ice Demon Kingdom? When the time comes, release the entire army in an instant. The capital of the Ice Demon Kingdom could have fallen into my hands in an instant. Zhou thought expectantly. Then he prepared to give it a try. He directly activated the law skill, Shadow Massacre, and hit himself. Then he activated the mid-tier deity level advanced grade divine artifact, Shadow Cloak, to enhance his invisibility ability. In this state, even if a mid-tier or a high-tier deity came, there was a high chance that they would not be able to see through his invisibility. However, Zhou frowned slightly. This was because he realized that activating law skills and using the mid-tier deity level Shadow Cloak at the same time consumed too much chaotic energy in his body. At this rate, he reckoned that before he even reached the capital of the Ice Demon King, the chaotic energy in his body would be almost exhausted. I can compress chaotic origin energy to the same quality as mid-tier deity level divine power. But in terms of size, it's still much inferior to a mid-tier deity level. Zhou thought. Then, he turned off Shadow Massacre's nomological skill, and purely used the mid-tier deity level divine artifact, Shadow Cloak. As expected, Zhou immediately felt that he had depleted a lot of energy. In this state, he could last for about half an hour. So much time was enough for him to do many things. Without any hesitation, he rushed into the sky above Black Valley City and flew towards the Ice Demon King. He didn't choose to enter the interlayer of space through the space meld ability of Starry Night and head to the capital of the Ice Demon King. This was because any kingdom with a little strength would take precautions in this aspect. If he did that, it would be very easy for him to expose the location of the Starry Night, and thus his own location. This way, he might as well use the mid-tier deity-level divine artifact, Shadow Cloak, to become invisible and minimize the possibility of being exposed. A moment later, he had already flown past the sky above the 16 regional territories of the Ice Demon Kingdom and was constantly advancing towards the Ice Demon King's capital. But at this moment, he suddenly sensed an extremely powerful aura in the distance and was rushing towards him. After a while, he saw an Ice Demon General in ice blue armor appear not far from Zhou. It looked coldly in Zhou's direction and flipped its right hand. A gray compass appeared in its palm. The needle on the black compass slowly spun and pointed straight at Zhou. The Ice Demon General looked over. When he realized that there was nothing, his expression changed slightly. Then he sneered. This concealment technique is not bad. However, if you want to rely on this method to launch a sneak attack on our Ice Demon Kingdom, you're looking down on the foundation that our Ice Demon Kingdom has accumulated over the past 4,000 years. It suddenly opened its mouth, and terrifying ice element energy condensed in its mouth, quickly forming an energy ball that emitted a terrifying energy aura. Then, it suddenly spat out the energy ball in Zhou's direction. Zhou, who was invisible, frowned slightly. His gaze fell on the compass in the other party's hand thoughtfully. Seeing that the energy ball was flying towards him, Zhou revealed himself and casually stretched out his hand, actually wanting to block the energy ball with one hand. The Ice Demon General sneered seeing this. It was a legendary tier elementary grade hero with an epic tier hero fate level slot. This young-looking human actually wanted to take its full strength attack? He really did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. However, in the next second his eyes immediately widened. Chapter 6:13 Zenith Heaven Cave Observation Array. This was because the young man had actually caught its energy ball with just one hand, and it seemed to be effortless. The next second, it saw the young man play with the energy ball in his hand for a while before throwing it over. It traveled fast as though it was a shooting star, even though this young man threw it lightly, scaring it so much that its hair stood on end. It turned around and wanted to escape. However, the energy ball collided with its body before it could fly far. Rumble! An intense ice blue explosion erupted in the sky. After the light dissipated, the Ice Demon General was already severely injured. Its body trembled as it looked up at Zhou. Seeing his calm expression, it could not help but laugh bitterly. It didn't escape. It just floated in the air like a condemned prisoner, waiting for the final judgment. Let me ask you, how did you find me? Zhou's voice sounded. The Ice Demon General remained silent. Zhou raised his eyebrows. Then, he condensed a chaos spear and shot it between its eyebrows. If you don't tell me, you'll die here today. If you say it, not only will I spare your life and make you my subject, but I will also give you unimaginable benefits. He said straightforwardly, become your subject. Heh, who do you think you are? The King of the Blazing Sun? The Ice Demon General said, I am the Lord of the Blazing Sun. Zhou raised his eyebrows. The Ice Demon General was stunned. I'm the king of a country, so I'll naturally keep my word. Zhou said calmly. Even though his words were from his hometown, the other party understood under the translation of the higher continent's common language. After a moment of silence, it said, the Ice Demon Kingdom is covered in a layer of Grand Luo Cave Observation Array. This Zenith Heaven Cave Observation Array can observe the fate of all sentient creatures in a way that ordinary life forms can't detect. At this point, he took out the compass and injected energy into it. Then, he saw dense red lines appear above the compass. This is the Zenith Heaven Cave Observation Array's Zenith Heaven Compass. And these red lines are the aura of fate you carry. You should have at least 10 million soldiers with you, right? Even though your methods of obscurity are not bad. But it can't hide the aura of fate. There's no way to hide the aura of destiny on the tens of millions of soldiers on you. That's why I found out about you, the Ice Demon General said. Zhou was speechless. No wonder even a mid-tier deity-level divine artifact like his shadow cloak was discovered. It turned out that the other party had directly observed him through the mysterious level of fate. That's not right. He had the void mask on so that no one could observe his fate through any means. However, the nearly 30 million soldiers he brought did not have the void mask, so he was naturally exposed. Zhou shook his head. He did not expect the Ice Demon Kingdom to have such observation methods. Suddenly, he thought of something and waved his right hand, opening a world fissure. Then, he placed the Sky Spirit ship into the small world in the world fissure. Even though the small world in his heart had just been established, it could already accommodate a large number of life forms and substances. It might only be temporary, but he could do a lot of things. After putting the Sky Spirit ship into his small world, Zhou looked at the Zenith Heaven compass in the Ice Demon General's hand. In the end, he discovered that the compass was still densely packed with red threads that represented the aura of fate. Zhou frowned. Even the method of putting it into his small world could not hide the aura of fate? It seemed that he could not directly destroy the Ice Demon Kingdom by parachuting in the capital. Then his brows relaxed. If he didn't parachute in, he wouldn't parachute in. With his current military strength, it was not difficult to kill the Ice Demon Kingdom head-on. At this moment, Zhou seemed to have sensed something and looked up. In his powerful sixth senses, he could sense a large number of soldiers flying in his direction. The Ice Demon King has already discovered you. It's not too late to run. No hurry, no hurry. Zhou smiled. What's your name? My name is Elliot. Ice Demon General. Elliot frowned and said, Ice and fire dual blades, Elliot. Elliot, let me ask you, are you willing to join the Blazing Sun Kingdom? You want to take me with you? Elliot was stunned. He thought that Zhou was going to take him with him. He was a little grateful. Then he said seriously, Of course I'm willing, Your Majesty. Zhou nodded. He directly agreed to his application. After joining the Blazing Sun Kingdom, Elliot could be truly trusted under the influence of the peace and prosperity. Your Majesty, let's go. Elliot suggested sincerely for Zhou. Go. What do you mean? I'm here today to eliminate the future trouble of the Ice Demon Kingdom for my future subjects. Otherwise, I'm afraid my future subjects won't be able to come to our Blazing Sun Kingdom smoothly. Zhou said calmly. Then he took out the Sky Spirit ship from the small world and released the nearly 30 million soldiers inside. The sky was instantly covered by the dense figures of the soldiers. When the Ice and Fire dual blades saw this scene, Elliot was instantly stunned. Especially when he discovered that there were two gods emitting a terrifying aura inside. Its body could not help but tremble. Everyone listen up. Prepare for war. Zhou ordered the entire army through the army interface. Yes, tens of millions of soldiers roared in unison, their voices shaking the heavens and earth. Even the countless soldiers of the Ice Demon Kingdom, who were rushing over from afar, paused for a moment before returning to their normal speed. The soldiers of the Ice Demon clan rushed over. There were about 5 million of them. Moreover, their average strength was not as strong as Zhou's. However, there were many top-notch experts among them. In particular, there were at least 100 epic tier experts. Even legendary tier experts numbered 6 to 7. At this moment, the leader of the Ice Demon clan, who was wearing a luxurious ice blue robe and an ice jade crown, took a step forward and said cautiously, May I ask which human faction you are from? I wonder when did my Ice Demon Kingdom provoke you to bring so many soldiers here? His voice loomed. You just robbed tens of millions of my refugees, but now you're acting like you don't know us. As expected of the Ice Demon King of the Ice Demon Kingdom, Your Majesty Kiro, your skin is thicker than the average ice demon. Zhou looked at it and asked mockingly. He had seen the basic information of this Ice Demon King on the map that Wu Tu had given him, so he could tell at a glance. The Ice Demon King chuckled. That's me. What else do you have to say? Zhou asked calmly. The Ice Demon King, Kiro, didn't even bother to reply. Instead, he ordered his Ice Demon King army to charge at Zhou's army. Zhou was naturally not afraid at all. He ordered the army to charge forward and not leave a single one alive. At the same time, he also raised his right hand and aimed his palm at the 10 million soldiers of the Ice Demon Kingdom. Extraordinary Tier Lord Talent. Insight Defection activate. Chapter 614 Race Divine Artifact. Blessing of the Ice Demon God 1 Boom. Invisible fluctuations instantly enveloped the 10 million Ice Demon soldiers. The next second, the bodies of more than 2.5 million Ice Ghost soldiers stiffened. Then, the expression in their eyes changed. They turned around and attacked their companions without hesitation. What kind of visual experience would it be for a quarter of the army to suddenly rebel against tens of millions of Ice Demon soldiers? And that was a huge mess. Everything was in chaos. The army of the Ice Demon Kingdom, that was originally attacking together, suddenly became chaotic at this moment. Bai Yun and the other Legion commanders, who were prepared, naturally would not let go of such a good opportunity. They immediately led the nearly 30 million soldiers to attack these Ice Demon Kingdom soldiers. Among them, the White Platinum tier and the soldiers below the White Platinum level formed nearly 20 greedy wolf howling moon arrays in groups of 200,000 soldiers. They summoned 20 greedy wolf avatars and pounced at the Ice Demon Kingdom soldiers. The scene before them was naturally the result of the joint efforts of Wu Xian, Bai Yun, Luo Sheng, and the other generals who controlled the greedy wolf howling moon array. Now that they were at the epic tier, the greedy wolf howling moon array was no longer of much use to them. However, this array formation still had a very obvious increase in combat strength for soldiers below the White Platinum tier. Moreover, it could prevent them from being fatally injured many times. However, this array formation still had a very obvious increase in combat strength for soldiers below the White Platinum tier. Moreover, it could prevent them from being fatally injured many times. A few of their generals worked together to pass this array formation to the White Platinum tier and lower-level soldiers with comprehension, and personally taught them. Even though it had only been a few days, more than 20 soldiers with high comprehension and potential had already mastered this array. Now they could show their might on the battlefield. The battle on the battlefield was in full swing. On the other side, after Zhou activated Insight Defection, he also looked at the Lord Talent notification. Insight Defection has taken effect. Lord Talent notification. A total of 1,355,241 Black Iron Tier Ice Demon Kingdom soldiers, 324,562 Green Bronze Tier Ice Demon Decurion, 315,412 White Silver Tier Ice Demon Centurions, 109,963 Yellow Gold Tier Ice Demon Millennium, 67,822 White Platinum Tier Ice Demon Generals, 19,634 Diamond Tier Ice Demon Generals, 5,625 Extraordinary Tier Ice Demon Generals, 16 Epic Tier Ice Demon Marshals, and 1 Lord Talent Notification Intermediate Grade Extreme Ice Demon Bao. Sackett have betrayed their faction and become your loyal subordinate. Zhou nodded at the report in satisfaction. 1 Insight Defection directly gave him 2,518,276 troops. As expected of an extraordinary tier Insight Defection. Awesome. He could not help but take another look at the Insight Defection report. And then, he noticed a bright spot. He clicked on the strongest person in the Insight Defection report and realized that this legendary Ice Demon Bao Sackett was actually an Ice Demon Kingdom hero with a legendary tier advanced grade hero fate level slot. Good God. With Insight Defection, not only did he incite more than 251 million Ice Demon Kingdom soldiers, he even managed to recruit a hero. Was he that lucky? Zhou was pleasantly surprised. Logically speaking, there was basically a chance that anyone would be obtainable by his Insight Defection, as long as their loyalty did not reach more than 90 points. However, even so, This was also the first time he had encountered the matter of directly inciting a hero. Zhou clicked his tongue in wonder. He had actually encountered such a small probability. Then he looked at the battlefield in front of him. At the same time, he flipped his right hand and saw a circular light barrier that emitted a black and white light that was about the size of a fist appeared in his hand. It was the legendary tier elementary grade treasure, Sun and Moon Heavenly Barrier. Zhou gave it a thought and directly activated it. It increased the effect of the Sun and Moon Heavenly Barrier by 30% and reduced additional damage by 30%. The soldiers immediately felt the increase in their strength from the Sun and Moon Heavenly Barrier, and their battle became even more ferocious and brave. At the same time, about 100 kilometers behind the battlefield, the king of the Ice Demon Kingdom, Kiro, was flying at full speed toward the capital with an ugly expression. It never expected that the king of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, whom he was rather worried about, had actually personally led his troops to their Ice Demon Kingdom to start a war. The most terrifying thing was, the other party's terrifying army was unbelievable. As an experienced king, he could tell at a glance that there were about 30 million soldiers in total. So many soldiers, already more than its Ice Demon Kingdom. As an intermediate kingdom that existed for a long time, its Ice Demon Kingdom only had a total of 26 million troops. At the thought of this, Kiro's expression turned even uglier. The 10 million soldiers I left behind probably won't survive much longer. It muttered. But that couldn't be helped. 10 million soldiers would not be able to deal with 30 million elite soldiers after all. Under such circumstances, if they did not escape, they would only die together with the soldiers. When this king returns to the capital, invite all the god-tier experts and other troops in the capital. So what if the king of the Blazing Sun is strong? This king will definitely make you regret coming to my Ice Demon Kingdom. Kiro gritted his teeth. Oh, what do you mean by regret? At this moment a faint voice sounded. Kiro's body stiffened. It looked up. He saw a human dressed in black and red martial artist combat attire, and holding a blood-colored longsword floating 100 meters in front of him, looking at it calmly. You are. Kiro's eyes widened. The next second, it suddenly felt that its neck was slightly wet, and it subconsciously reached out to wipe it, then looked at it. Then, it was horrified to see that its hands were covered in ice blue blood. Only then did the king of the Ice Demon Kingdom realize that his neck had been slit unknowingly. Cough cough. It wanted to say something, but when it opened its mouth, it spat out a large amount of ice blue blood. Then, its ice blue eyes gradually dimmed until they completely lost their light. Suen walked over and cut off its head with a sword. Then, he put its corpse into his spatial ring and flew towards the battlefield calmly. Your subordinate, Night Rakshasa Sword God, Suen, has killed the epic tier king of the Ice Demon Kingdom Kiro. Promotion energy plus 40 million. Loots condensed. Blessing of the War God. You have received an additional 2 billion promotion energy points. Zhou looked at the two notifications, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Suen, this kid. He had never been disappointed in this aspect. He looked at the battlefield in front of him. At this moment, the situation on the battlefield was very obvious. With the enhancement of the Sun and Moon Heavenly Barrier and the 7.5 million Ice Demon Kingdom soldiers fighting the 31 million Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers, Zhou's side had the absolute advantage on the battlefield. Victory was not far away for them. Chapter 6:15 Race Divine Artifact. Blessing of the Ice Demon God. 2. A moment later, Suen returned and placed the Ice Demon King Kiro's corpse in front of Zhou. Well done. Go on. Zhou smiled. Yes, Your Majesty, Suen said respectfully. Then, he turned around and joined the battlefield. Zhou looked at the corpse of the Ice Demon King Kiro in front of him. Item name: King of the Ice Demon Kingdom. Kiro's corpse. Item level: Epic tier advanced grade. Item effect: Contains unextracted loots. Item description: He was the king of the Ice Demon Kingdom when he was alive. He ruled the intermediate kingdom, the Ice Demon Kingdom. He was quite ambitious, but unfortunately, he was not strong enough and was jealous. He had a conflict with the Blazing Sun Kingdom. In the end, during the war with it, he was assassinated by the heroes of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Loot's drop rate. 100 epic tier mist core drop rate. 100%. 1,200 origin crystals drop rate. 100%. 1 epic tier advanced grade equipment Ice Demon King armor. Drop rate. 10%. 1 epic tier advanced grade equipment Ice Demon King sword drop rate. 10%. 1 epic tier advanced grade skill book King's Might. Drop rate. 5%. 1 epic tier advanced grade skill book Frozen Domain. Drop rate. 5%. 1 race divine artifact. Ice Demon God's Talisman drop rate 0. 1%. 6 black iron level lord talent. Crystal fragment. 0%. Zhou looked at his spoils of war, and suddenly raised his eyebrows. A look of surprise and joy appeared on his face. Race divine artifact. This guy actually had a race divine artifact. Zhou was too surprised. As someone who possessed 2 divine artifacts of the race, he naturally knew how precious they were. Originally, he thought that the next time he obtained a race divine artifact, it might be the next time the Supreme would distribute the rewards for the event. They did not expect. The activity of the Supreme had just begun. He had already unexpectedly obtained a new race divine artifact. Not bad, not bad. It really dropped something good. Without another word, he immediately began the extraction. Lord Talent notification. Your loots have been enhanced by the King of Loots, Perfect Loots. Grade +1. Title hint. Your loots have been affected by the title of the strongest lord. The number of loots has increased by 150%. Lord Talent notification. You have obtained Perfect Loots, 250 mist cores, legendary tier, 3,000 origin crystals, 3 pieces of equipment, Ice Demon Emperor armor, legendary tier advanced grade, 3 pieces of equipment, Ice Demon Emperor sword, legendary tier advanced grade, 3 skill books, Emperor's Might, legendary tier advanced grade, 3 skill books, Eternal Frost Domain, legendary tier advanced grade, 1 race divine artifact, Ice Demon God's Blessing race, 15 Lord Talent crystal, fragments green tier. Whoosh. The Ice Demon King. Kiro's corpse instantly turned into a large number of loots and flew into Zhou's king's treasure box. Zhou checked the loots in the king's treasure box. There was naturally no need to mention the mist core, the origin crystal, and the Lord Talent crystal fragment. Zhou could not wear the 6 legendary tier advanced grade equipment, the Ice Demon Emperor armor, and the Ice Ghost Emperor sword, for the time being. Therefore, he only looked at the effects of the equipment. After discovering that there was nothing special, he directly stored them in the king's treasure box. When his subordinates reached the legendary tier advanced grade in the future, he could directly reward them with these 2 pieces of equipment. As for himself, he naturally did not need these normal equipment with a divine artifact. Then he looked at the 6 skill books. Zhou only took a glance at the Eternal Frost Domain. Then, because it was a legendary tier advanced grade skill, he could not learn it for the time being, and stored it in the king's treasure box. Due to the name of the book, Zhou specially read its skill information carefully. In the end, he realized that this was a normal pressure type skill. This skill, be it the Emperor Dragon robe on his body, or the various high-level bloodlines in his body, had similar and stronger abilities. Therefore, Zhou was not interested in such low-level pressure at all. After reading it, he threw it to the side of the king's treasure box. In the end, Zhou's gaze landed on a bone necklace. This bone necklace was bone white in color. At the bottom of the necklace, there was a thumb-sized ice blue ice demon's head. It closed its eyes quietly, and there was a sense of charity on its face. Zhou looked at her. A text notification appeared. Race Divine Artifact Name. Blessing of the Ice Demon God. Equipment Grade. Race Divine Artifact Ability. Desire to become a god. The Ice Demon God. Before Bai died, he sacrificed to the supreme will and returned all his divine power and accumulated faith to his race's people. Bai hoped that after he died, his race would be able to quickly produce new god spirits to continue protecting his race. When the Ice Demon race's people advance to the low-level deity tier elementary grade, the probability of successfully advancing is increased by 10%. Race Divine Artifact Ability, Blessing of the Ice Spike King. When the Ice Demon clan is born, there is a very small probability that they will automatically have the talent Invisibility. Introduction to Race Divine Artifact. The Ice Demon God, Bai used himself as a sacrifice to ask the Supreme Will for mercy. This is a Race Divine Artifact created by Bai. It contains Bai's deep love for the Ice Demon race. Note: this race's divine artifact is exclusive to the Ice Demon race. It is only effective on the Ice Demon race. Zhou looked at this race divine artifact and frowned slightly. The effect of this race divine artifact was not bad. However, it was only effective on the Ice Demon race, which greatly reduced its value. Zhou thought for a while and shook his head with a smile. It was already not bad to be able to obtain a race divine artifact. He was being picky. Moreover, after he conquered the entire Ice Demon Kingdom, all the Ice Demons in the Ice Demon King Kingdom would be his subjects. With the Ice Demon Kingdom as an intermediate grade kingdom, there must be a lot of Ice Demons in its country. Under such circumstances, this Ice Demon God's blessing could naturally be put to good use. 2 hours later, more than 7.5 million soldiers of the Ice Demon Kingdom were completely wiped out. The other party was completely wiped out. As for Zhou's side, they had only lost more than 500,000 soldiers. Furthermore, the clergy of the Shelter of the Goddess of Life had been healing and reviving the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom at the back of the battlefield since the beginning of the war. Therefore, there were more than 500,000 soldiers who had died or been injured. Before long, it would appear in front of them alive and kicking again. The soldiers were cleaning up the battlefield. A moment later, Bai Yin walked over with a report. Your Majesty, this is the report of the recent war. Other than the loots that we have yet to total up, everything else is basically accounted for. Your Majesty, please take a look, Bai Yin said respectfully. Zhou nodded and took the report. He glanced at it briefly before his gaze landed on the last line. In this war, their side had dealt with a total of 6 legendary tier experts. Furthermore, 4 of them had hero slots. Zhou was delighted when he saw this. As long as he extracted the corpses of these 6 legendary tier experts, it was completely possible for him to obtain a large number of god tier trophies, with the enhancement of the King of Loots. At the thought of this, Zhou immediately ordered Bai Yin to bring over the corpses of the 6 legendary tier experts. Chapter 616 Extreme Ice Essence Shield. Frost White Star. Bai Yin brought the corpses of the 6 legendary tier experts to Zhou. Zhou did not waste any time, and reached out to retrieve the spoils of war of the Ice Demon clan. The loots from the corpses of the 6 legendary tier Ice Demons were extracted. He obtained a total of 3,000 divine crystals, 42 divine artifacts, 36 law skills, 6 Book of the God Spirit, 6 Hero Inheritance Secret Manuals, and 90 green bronze tier Lord Talent crystal fragments. As for the other loots, they were all below the god tier level, so there was no need to elaborate. When Zhou saw so many loots, joy immediately appeared on his face. He first chose 12 non-repeating law skills from the 36 law skills, and chose to learn them all. Then, he picked out the best 5 divine artifacts from the 42 inferior divine artifacts for them to recognize him as their master. As for the other divine artifacts, they were either duplicates or weaker than the divine artifacts he had recognized as his masters. Therefore, he did not keep them. He planned to keep them for himself, and reward them to his god-tier subordinates in the future. Then he put the other loots into his spatial ring. The harvest this time is really quite abundant. Zhou could not help but sigh. This was still not the gains from taking down the Ice Demon Kingdom. He would definitely gain more if he could take down the Ice Demon Kingdom. At this moment, King of the Blazing Sun, an extremely furious roar sounded from afar. An arrow emitting an extremely cold aura shot over from afar. This arrow emitted a dense aura of mid-tier deity-level divine power. It was obvious that it was shot by a god spirit. Zhou was shocked when he saw this, but he quickly calmed down. With a thought, an ice blue shield appeared in his hand. The god of the snowfield and white wolf, Wu, and the god of blazing sun and burns, Haros, who were watching the battle from the side and were about to stop the ice-type divine arrow, were stunned when they saw the shield. Especially the god of the snowfield and white wolf, Wu. Did this guy really just arrive in the high continent? Could he be the illegitimate son of the supreme will? They thought doubtfully. On the other side, Zhou looked at the divine artifact shield in his hand. Divine artifact name: Extreme Ice Essence Shield. Divine artifact grade: Low-tier deity level intermediate grade. Divine artifact law: Extreme Ice Shield. You can create an ice attribute divine shield using divine power. It can resist the mid-tier deity level intermediate grade law skills within the range of your own perception. Zhou nodded slightly. A low-tier deity-level intermediate-grade divine artifact being able to withstand a mid-tier deity-level intermediate-grade nomological attack would be considered a supreme divine artifact, according to the inheritance records in Zhou's bloodline. The chaotic origin energy from his body surged into it. A dark blue extreme ice shield quickly appeared in front of the ice attribute divine arrow, after injecting about a third of the chaotic origin energy. The two instantly collided the next second. Rumble! An earth-shattering explosion sounded. At the center of the collision, a large amount of ice rapidly expanded like bubbles, forming a mushroom cloud of ice in the blink of an eye. A terrifying chill spread out, causing all living beings within a radius of 50 kilometers, including the soldiers of the Ice Demon Kingdom and the Blazing Sun Kingdom, to shiver from the cold. Some of the weaker soldiers' life auras even began to gradually weaken, as if they were about to die at any moment. A thick layer of ice quickly condensed on the ground, forests, lakes, and even life forms within a radius of 50 kilometers. At this moment, the world had even become a silent and extremely cold place. Zhou's expression turned solemn. This was the reason why everything within 100 miles, 1,000 miles, or even further would be reduced to the ruins once god spirits started battles within themselves. The law skill attacks grasped by god spirits were too terrifying. Once it was activated, it could easily change or even destroy a portion of the geographical area. Just like the scene in front of him, when powerful god spirits fought, they could even destroy the world. Fortunately, he had a way to solve the problem in front of him. Zhou gave it a thought, and a frosty white diamond appeared in his hand. Divine artifact name: Frost White Star. Divine artifact grade: Low-tier deity level elementary grade. Divine artifact law: White Frost Domain. Activate the White Frost Star, which is able to activate the White Frost Domain within a certain range. Friendly creatures could be immune to ice attribute attacks legendary tier elementary grade and below, and some low-tier deity level elementary grade law skill attacks. This was also one of the 5 divine artifacts, and a large-scale defense divine artifact. The god of the snowfield and white wolf, Wu, and the god of blazing sun and burns, Haros, were dumbfounded when they saw Zhou take out another divine artifact. Then, the two god spirits looked at each other with deep and inexplicable gazes. On the other side, Zhou immediately injected chaotic origin energy into this divine artifact after he took out the Frost White Star. As the chaotic origin energy was continuously injected, a layer of frosty white spherical domain, with the frosty white star as the core, spread out rapidly. It was the divine artifact law, White Frost Domain. A few seconds later, it covered an area of 20 kilometers, where more than 30 million of Zhou's soldiers were. Zhou did not stop when he saw this. Instead, he continued to inject a small amount of chaotic energy to maintain the White Frost Domain. At the same time, he started to sense the remaining chaotic origin energy in his body. In the end, he realized that he only had about 20% of his chaotic origin energy left. Just activating this White Frost Domain has actually exhausted half of the chaotic origin energy in my body. This White Frost Star's protective effect is useful, but it also consumes a lot of energy. Zhou thought to himself. Based on his perception, the remaining 20% of his chaotic origin energy could only maintain the White Frost domain for about half an hour. He hoped that this half an hour would allow his soldiers to gain the upper hand on the battlefield, or his side could deal with the other party's god. Otherwise, his soldiers would suffer without the protection of the White Frost domain half an hour later. Back to more than 10 seconds ago, 100 miles away, an old ice demon king wearing an ice blue robe, an ice blue crown on his head, and a white beard that was more than 3 meters long, had just put down his ice blue longbow angrily. Behind him were more than 16 million soldiers from the Ice Demon Kingdom, and among them were 3 ice demon race god spirits emitting terrifying auras. Moreover, 2 of the god spirits' divine power auras had already surpassed the lesser god level and reached mid-tier deity level. Chapter 617 Pounce. This arrow, His Majesty locked onto the King of the Blazing Sun and shot it out. That King of the Blazing Sun isn't even at the legendary tier. Even if he has many trump cards and doesn't die after enduring it, he will definitely be severely injured. A mid-tier deity-level god spirit of the Ice Ghost race with a blue engraved arm said, after capturing the King of the Blazing Sun, "I want to kill him with my own hands and avenge my son." Kirin gritted his teeth. He was the previous king of the Ice Demon Kingdom, the father of the current Ice Demon King Kiro. After he broke through to the low-tier deity-level advance grade more than 200 years ago, in order to find the opportunity to advance to mid-tier deity level, he resigned from the position of king and let his son, Kiro, be the next king of the Ice Demon Kingdom. Later on, after he advanced to mid-tier deity level, he did not want to return to the position of king. Instead, he chose to continue cultivating and try to advance to a higher level. He was originally cultivating in his shrine today. However, he suddenly had a sudden impulse and vaguely felt that his bloodline had encountered something ominous. After realizing this, he immediately stopped his cultivation and came to the Life Hall, where the Ice Demon Kingdom's life token was stored. Then, he realized that his son Kiro's life token had already shattered. This meant that his son was already dead. He, who was in disbelief and anger, immediately asked the others in the palace. Only then did he know that his son had just led his troops to find an unknown enemy faction that had suddenly descended in the territory of the Ice Demon Kingdom. After hearing this, he calmed down. He first observed the array through the Zenith Heaven Cave observation array, and observed who the enemy was from afar. Only then did he realize that the other party was the strongest lord of all races, the Lord of the Blazing Sun, who had been famous for some time. After knowing this, Kirin did not choose to deal with the other party rashly. Instead, he gathered all the troops and all the experts in the entire Ice Demon Kingdom. After making all the preparations, he led his troops here. Then this scene happened. At this moment, they observed the scene of the shield and arrows colliding. Then, he saw the King of the Blazing Sun activate the Frost White Star to protect his soldiers. When Kirin and the other 3 Ice Demon God Spirits saw this, they immediately raised their eyebrows slightly. 2 divine artifacts. I really can't underestimate this King of the Blazing Sun. Another Ice Demon God Spirit holding an ice spear said coldly. More than that. Do you see the 2 God Spirits behind him? From their divine power aura, they should be a low-tier deity-level God Spirit and a mid-tier deity-level God Spirit. This King of the Blazing Sun really came prepared to launch a war in our Ice Demon Kingdom. The other Ice Demon God Spirit, who also had a huge sword, said solemnly. At this moment, Kirin's emotions seemed to have been released by this arrow. No matter how many God Spirits the other party has, we have to destroy them. Our race's divine artifact was with my son. Now that my son has been killed by this King of the Blazing Sun, the race's divine artifact might have also fallen into the other party's hands. We have to destroy the other party and take back the race's divine artifact for the future of the Ice Demon Kingdom. Kirin said coldly and with aggro. The other 3 Ice Demon God Spirits also nodded solemnly. The Ice Demon race was not a race with high potential, not to mention breaking through to the God Spirit realm. It was quite difficult to break through to the epic tier and legendary tier. The reason why they could have 4 God Spirits now, including Kirin, was all because of the divine artifact of the race, the Ice Demon God, left behind by the first king of the Ice Demon Kingdom, Bai. Even though the talisman only had one effect, which could increase the probability of the Ice Demon race advancing to the low-tier deity level elementary grade by 3%, this not-so-strong race divine artifact effect also allowed the Ice Demon Kingdom to forcefully accumulate 2 low-tier deity-level Ice Demon God spirits and 2 mid-tier deity-level Ice Demon God spirits in 4,000 years. There were so many God spirits of the race. Even some newly established beginner Kingdom Lord factions would probably only have this number of God spirit reserves. What more the advanced kingdoms? While this was not without the help of their own efforts and national strength, it could also be seen how powerful the race's divine artifact was. It was also because of this power that the past higher-ups of the Ice Demon Kingdom regarded their possession of the divine artifact of the race as the highest secret. Only the past kings of the Ice Demon Kingdom and the God spirits of the Ice Demon Kingdom knew of the existence of the divine artifact of the race. However, they all kept their mouths shut and no one leaked it. Otherwise, once word got out, those high and mighty kingdoms might even personally take action to snatch this race divine artifact. Even if they could not use it, they could stop the rise of a country with the race divine artifact. Speaking of which, Kirin and the other 3 God spirits did not waste their breath. They led the more than 16 million Ice Demon Kingdom soldiers towards the Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers. Both sides quickly saw each other. Then the Ice Demon Kingdom did not even stop. They did not even waste their breath, and directly rushed towards the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Zhou had twice the advantage of the other party's military strength to begin with. When he saw this scene, he was naturally not afraid at all, and directly asked Bai Yin to lead the army to attack. The 2 sides quickly came into contact, and immediately fought fiercely. Linger. You activate Insight Defection. When Zhou saw this, he immediately said, his Insight Defection could not be used on the same faction twice on the same day. Therefore, this chance of Insight Defection could only be given to others. As for the other lords of the Star Alliance, they could only be envious when they saw this. However, they had no complaints. Their Insight Defection was given to them by His Majesty after all. This was a huge gift to begin with. They were not greedy people. How could they dare to complain about such a small matter? Okay, big brother. Linger nodded excitedly, and immediately raised her hand to activate the Insight Defection. Among the more than 16 million Ice Demon Kingdom soldiers, more than 2 million Ice Demon soldiers suddenly rebelled and slashed at their compatriots in their camp. The Ice Demon Kingdom immediately fell into chaos. When Linger saw this, she turned to look at Zhou in surprise. Big brother, my Insight Defection recruited more than 3,260,000 Ice Demon soldiers. Zhou smiled and nodded. He felt that it was a pity. If he was the one who activated Insight Defection, he could instigate at least 4 million Ice Demon King soldiers. However, he didn't care that there were only more than 800,000 soldiers. His daily gains from the Monster Ranch were more than this. He looked at the battlefield in front of him. At this moment, it was obvious that the Blazing Sun Kingdom had the absolute advantage on the battlefield. After all, their military strength was twice that of the other party, and the internal strife had thrown them into chaos. Under such circumstances, the outcome was obvious. At this moment, whoosh, 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 3 ice blue divine arrows emit a terrifying aura shot over from afar and shot at Zhou from 3 different directions. Zhou's heart skipped a beat. The divine artifact shield that had blocked the arrow previously suddenly split into 3 and blocked the 3 divine arrows. Zhou looked in the direction. He saw Kirin, who was more than 100 kilometers away, looking at him with cold aggro. At this moment, Zhou suddenly felt an extremely strong sense of danger. 3 god spirits of the Ice Demon Kingdom suddenly appeared in front of him out of thin air. They either brandished their huge swords, smashed down heavy fists, or stabbed out with ice spears, attacking Zhou. Chapter 618 Distributing the Divine Artifact. Zhou was shocked and immediately reacted. In the next moment, 4 final guard members appeared out of thin air in front of Zhou and blocked the 3 ice demon heroes. Epic tier elementary grade, supremacy formation. This was a military formation that the final guard was born with. It was specially used to protect the Lord of the End. Gray auras suddenly flew out of the 4 of them. These gray auras were connected to each other, forming a gray membrane that firmly protected Zhou and them. Right on the heels of that, bang, 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 the attacks of the 3 ice demon god spirits landed on the gray membrane. The seemingly weak gray membrane actually blocked the attacks of the 3 god spirits. It lasted for a second before being damaged. The ice demon god spirit carrying the huge sword on its back exclaimed in surprise. The other 2 ice demon god spirits also frowned slightly. The 3 god spirits had joined forces to launch a sneak attack, but they were actually blocked by a military formation created by 4 epic tier elementary grade summon creatures. They attacked Zhou again without hesitation. Then the 4 final guards blocked the other party's attack again. The difference in strength directly shattered them into wisps of gray aura of finality. Then, this final aura quickly condensed again, and formed their original bodies in the blink of an eye. This was not the most surprising thing. What surprised the 3 ice demon god spirits the most was that after their rebirth, not only did their aura not weaken, they even advanced from epic tier elementary grade to epic tier advanced grade. Even though it was only a temporary breakthrough, it was enough to surprise them. What they did not know was that this was the effect of their Divine Kingdom soldier-type talent, the final Calamity Body. However, this end Calamity Body, that was reborn after death, and became stronger could not be used indefinitely. If they died again, and their strength temporarily broke through to the legendary tier, they would not be able to revive again if they were still beaten to death. Zhou naturally knew this. However, he knew that even if the final guard members were reborn and broke through to the legendary tier, they would not be able to help him fight against the 3 ice demon god spirits. Therefore, he used spatial teleportation and left the encirclement of the 3 god spirits. Then, he instantly retracted the 4 final guard members. The 3 gods were about to chase after them when they saw the god of the snowfield and white wolf, Zaiwu, and the god of blazing sun and burns, Heros, fly in front of them to stop them from going over. You'd better move aside. Otherwise, they'll think that you're going against our ice demon kingdom. Among the 3 god spirits, the mid-level god-tier ice ghost god spirit with the blue engraved arm said sinisterly. Even though one of these 2 god spirits was a high-level god spirit, they had 4 god spirits on their side, and Kirin could shoot arrows to assist them from afar. Coupled with the trump cards they still had a high chance of winning if they really fought. Zaiwu did not say anything. Heros retorted with a disdainful expression. I'm a god spirit worshipper of the Elven Empire. Are you sure you want the Elven Empire to become our enemy? The expressions of the 3 ice demon god spirits changed slightly. The god spirit holding the ice spear reacted and said, "Then you don't have to." Before Heros could finish speaking, he saw the 3 god spirits charging at them. Zaiwu's expression changed slightly. Heros also cursed under his breath before immediately responding to the enemy. The 5 gods quickly fought. However, because the other party had 4 god spirits, and they had clearly practiced some kind of god spirit military formation to increase their strength, working together could actually greatly increase their combat strength. This made it a little difficult for Zaiwu and Heros to resist. I knew this deal was not that simple. Zaiwu cursed in his heart. He was already starting to regret it. If he had known that he would have to face such a strong enemy from the beginning, he would not have agreed to Zhou's request so easily. His gaze wandered as he searched for an opportunity to escape. At this moment, Senior Heros. Senior Zaiwu. Please come to me first. Zhou sent a voice transmission. The 2 gods were stunned. Then, they tacitly forced back the 3 ice demon god spirits in front of them, and arrived beside Zhou as quickly as possible. I hope you have a way to deal with the 3 of them, by letting us come over. Heros said angrily. As the god of blazing sun and burns, he was actually better at combat. However, facing 3 god spirits who controlled the god-tier military formation at the same time, and another god spirit was secretly waiting for an opportunity to launch a sneak attack. This situation made he feel rather aggrieved. Zhou did not waste his breath. He waved his right hand, and 2 sets of 12 divine artifacts appeared beside him. When these 12 divine artifacts appeared, not to mention Heros and Zhewu, even the 4 god spirits of the Ice Demon Kingdom were stunned. Then extremely intense greed immediately erupted in their eyes. However, Zhou acted as if he did not see it. Seniors, I'll borrow these 2 sets of low-level divine artifacts for the time being. I hope it will help the god war between you, he said. Before Zhewu could react, Heros laughed out loud. Without hesitation, he scooped with his right hand and took one of the low-level divine artifacts. Then he recognized it as his master and put it on. My good lord! It's even a brand new low-tier divine artifact. After Heros put on this divine artifact, he was immediately shocked again. Then, he could not help but be overjoyed. New divine artifacts meant that they had not withered at all and retained the power and effect of the divine artifact at its peak. He originally only had a mid-level god-tier elementary grade divine artifact. This divine artifact configuration was already not bad among other mid-level god tiers of the same level. After all, there were at least divine artifacts that could be used. Defeating a high-level god spirit without a divine artifact was still very simple. However, now that he had the 6 low-tier deity-level divine artifacts in front of him, he felt that his combat strength had more than doubled. For the current him, even if an old high-level divine artifact with 2 high-level divine artifacts appeared in front of him, he had the guts to challenge them and had a chance of winning. When Zhewu saw Heros' impolite expression, he no longer hesitated. He directly took the 6 low-level divine artifacts and wore them. A powerful sense of power and confidence immediately appeared in the hearts of the 2 gods accompanied by the divine artifact. You're not bad. Heros patted Zhou's shoulder and praised him. Fuck, I've lived for more than 3,000 years. This is the first time I felt the feeling of having a divine artifact all over my body. It would be good if the divine artifacts on me are all high-level divine artifacts. Heros thought greedily. Then, he turned his head and looked sinisterly in Kiro's direction. Fuck, I've tolerated you for a long time. Heros roared. Then, he turned into a flame and flew towards Kiro. When the other 3 ice demon god spirits saw this, they immediately rushed over to stop them. Unexpectedly, Heros slapped them with a huge divine power fire, and all the divine artifacts on his body suddenly lit up, shattering the military formation formed by the 3 god spirits, as if he was swatting flies, and repelled them more than 10 kilometers away. After the 3 gods stabilized themselves, they could not help but be shocked. This high-level god's combat strength, after wearing this divine artifact, was simply different from before. Chapter 6:19 God Slaying. Victory. Heros also saw this scene, and could not help but laugh out loud. This was the power of 6 divine artifacts stacked together. Even if they were the lowest level low-tier deity level elementary grade divine artifacts, it was enough for him to easily crush his previous enemies. He quickly rushed in front of Kirin. Then, he took out a high-level deity tier elementary grade divine artifact, the Fire Divine Fork, that emitted scorching flames, and began to fight Kirin. Kirin was an archery god spirit, who was good at long-range combat to begin with. He was not good at close combat. Now that he was facing Heros, who had greatly increased his strength, and was good at close combat, he immediately fell into a bitter battle. Every second of battle could be considered dangerous to Kirin. Come and help me. He asked the other 3 ice demon god spirits for help in a panic. The 3 ice demon god spirits also wanted to save Kirin. However, just as they were about to go over, they saw a wolf and 2 people appeared in front of them. They were Zhewu, Qi Xintian and Wuxia. What a familiar god spirit aura. I wonder how much my strength will increase after bathing in your divine blood. Wuxia held the 2 blood-colored axes and looked at the 3 god spirits with burning eyes. An aura that seemed to want to fight the world suddenly erupted from his body. Zhewu looked at the 2 humans and was secretly shocked. This was because he also felt a faint sense of threat from them. These two humans suddenly came to my side and said that they wanted to fight with me. They indeed had something to rely on. These two humans suddenly came to my side and said that they wanted to fight with me. They indeed had something to rely on. I'll deal with that mid-tier deity level. The two of you deal with the two low-tier deities. I'll help you after I deal with them. Can you do that? Zaiwu said in a low voice. With this divine artifact, he also became more confident. Sure. Qi Xiantian nodded. Guoqiao laughed, his eyes filled with fanaticism. He held his two axes and rushed towards the low-tier god spirit of the ice demon race holding the ice spear. What a lunatic! Zaiwu thought to himself. An epic tier advanced grade human actually dared to charge at a low-tier deity level elementary grade god spirit. If this was not a lunatic, what was? However, he did not care. He took out a white and sharp tooth. It was their White Wolf race's low-tier deity advanced grade divine artifact, White Wolf Fang. He took out his divine artifact and rushed towards the ice demon god spirit with the blue engraved arm. At this moment, Qi Xiantian also took out the myriad sword immortal formation and controlled the huge sword condensed from the myriad swords to attack the ice demon god spirit that used the huge sword. Let me help too. Zhou was not idle when he saw this. He flipped his right hand and took out a large number of low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals. Then, he summoned the ice demon sacrificial robe and the ice demon god sacrificial dagger. He sacrificed the divine crystals through the sacrifice laws of these two divine artifacts. Then, he summoned an ice stats attack law skill and an ice stats defense law skill. Among them, the ice stats attack law skill was called Big Iceberg. The ice stats defense law skill was called Winter Ice Armor. Zhou threw 250 low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals into the two divine artifacts. Not only did he put on a layer of winter ice armor for himself, Heros, Zaiwu, and the others, but he also released 5 large icebergs for the 4 ice demon god spirits. Kirin and the other ice demon god spirits, who were focused on fighting Heros, Zaiwu, and the other god spirits, did not expect the Lord of the Blazing Sun to be able to launch such an attack. Caught off guard, everyone suffered injuries of varying severity. King of the Blazing Sun, Kirin and the other god spirits roared. They wanted to deal with the King of the Blazing Sun, who disgusted them first. But how could Heros and the others let them leave? In the end, they could only fight Heros and the others while being vigilant against Zhou, releasing similar attacks. This situation was like Kirin shooting arrows from the side just now, making Kirin and the others not dare to fight with all their might. A moment later, Heros laughed and grabbed Kirin's head, putting his corpse into his spatial treasure accompanied by a scream. Your Majesty! The other 3 ice demon god spirits watched this scene with widened eyes. They were all old friends and subordinates who had followed His Majesty for hundreds of years. How could they not be angry when they saw this scene with their deep friendship? What are you shouting for? It's your turn now. Heros glanced at them and smiled sinisterly. Then, he turned into a dazzling fireball again and rushed towards them. Run! Thick spatial power erupted, forming a spatial passageway with endless suction behind it, directly sucking it into the spatial rift. The 3 ice demon god spirits were naturally not stupid. They knew that if they continued fighting, there was a 99% chance that they would die here. After forcing Zaiwu and the others back with their full strength, they immediately flew back quickly. At the same time, they took out a directional spatial teleportation talisman of a mid-tier deity-level advanced grade and injected divine power into it. Then, the directional spatial teleportation talisman lit up slightly. Then, it suddenly became unstable and gradually calmed down. Thick spatial power erupted, forming a spatial passageway with endless suction behind it, directly sucking it into the spatial rift. Their eyes immediately became filled with disbelief, and their already ice-blue faces immediately turned even paler. What happened? Why is the directional spatial teleportation talisman ineffective? The ice demon god spirit using the huge sword said anxiously. I say, where do you ice lumps want to run to? At this moment, a voice that terrified them sounded in front of them. They looked over. Heros was looking at them with a sinister smile. The constantly expanding and exploding flames on his body seemed to show the arrogant and belligerent personality in his heart. When they saw this, how could they have any intention of fighting again? Just as they were about to turn around and escape, they saw Zaiwu, Qi Xiantian, and Wuxia flying behind them, blocking their escape path and looking at them coldly. At the same time, when Zhou saw that they could not escape, he silently opened the spatial crack near them wider. A moment later, under the siege of Heros and the others, these 3 ice demon god spirits had all died in battle. Heros and Zaiwu walked over with the corpses of the 4 god spirits. They looked at the corpses reluctantly, and finally gritted their teeth, and handed them to Zhou. I won't return you the divine artifact for now. I'll use it again. It feels good. Heros said. Sure. Zhou did not mind. Heros nodded. Then, he flew towards the 2 armies fighting, and began to use the divine artifacts on his body to kill to his heart's content. I'll go too. Zaiwu was also a little reluctant to part with the 6 divine artifacts on him. After saying this, he also flew down to slaughter the soldiers of the Ice Demon Kingdom. Your Majesty, Qi Xiantian and Zaiwu flew over and said respectfully. Both of them were covered in blood and looked rather sorry. Are you guys okay? Zhou asked with concern. It's just some minor injuries. We've already taken the medicine. We'll be fine after sleeping for a night. Guoqiao smiled and replied while Qi Xiantian also nodded. Zhou nodded and whispered, I'll make a breakthrough when I get back. Both of them were Dragon Slayer, and could increase their strength through the Song and Bloodbath talent effect, and bathing in the blood of high-level bloodline life forms. Even though the Ice Demon race was not a high-level bloodline race, however, their god spirits were different. God spirits, even the god spirits of the weakest race, had experienced the divine power of the supreme will. Their constitution could be considered a high-level bloodline creature. It was naturally not a problem to use their divine blood to trigger the Song and Bloodbath. Yes, Your Majesty, the 2 of them said respectfully. Zhou nodded. 3 hours later, the battlefield gradually fell silent. All the enemy soldiers of the Ice Demon Kingdom had been eliminated. Only the sounds of the Blazing Sun Kingdom soldiers cleaning up the battlefield and extracting loots could be heard. After cleaning up the battlefield, Zhou ordered all the Starry Knights to fly towards the Ice Demon King. The Ice Demon Kingdom no longer had the strength to fight. Now, he could occupy this intermediate kingdom to his heart's content, and do whatever he wanted without worrying about any accidents. Chapter 620 Contract Book on the way to the Ice Demon Kingdom. In the Starry Night where Zhou was. I'll give it back to you. Zaiwu and Heros came in front of Zhou. Then, Heros took off the 6 divine artifacts on him, and returned them to Zhou. At the side, Zaiwu hesitated for a long time, before reluctantly taking down the divine artifact on his body. Zhou smiled and put it away. At this moment, his impression of Heros had changed greatly. This guy clearly liked these 6 low-tier divine artifacts so much previously, but he returned them without hesitation when it was time. He was a god spirit who did things generously. He did not care about Zaiwu's reaction. If it were him, he would be reluctant too. It was just a normal reaction. King of the Blazing Sun, are you interested in having a god spirit guard your kingdom? Heros suddenly looked at Zhou seriously. Zaiwu raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Heros in surprise. Senior, you want to come to my Blazing Sun kingdom and guard it as the local god spirit? Zhou was not a fool. He immediately reacted. You're so rich and generous. I don't think it's a loss to be a god spirit of your kingdom. Heros laughed, not hiding his thoughts at all. Zhou was naturally tempted. This was a high god worshipping his kingdom. Typically, a newly established beginner empire would only have 3 low-tier god spirits as worshippers at most. This was also one of the conditions to establish an empire. If he could invite Heros to be a guardian of his country and establish an empire so far away, his newly established beginner kingdom would have a high-level god spirit to protect him and his country. In the future, His kingdom would have a true God Spirit tier combat strength. This way, he would not have to be restrained when facing God Spirit level enemies in the future. However, he quickly thought of something and asked carefully, "What about the Elven Empire?" "That's easy. I'm already very free in the Elven Empire. It's basically equivalent to a role that only takes up the position and doesn't contribute. I'll mention this to Her Majesty Elizariel when I get back. She should agree." Heras smiled. Zhou could not help but think. At this moment, Zhou could not help but think, "Heras, I don't think Her Majesty Elizariel will agree to your request easily. Don't forget, it's a critical period for the Elven Empire to advance to the Elven Divine Kingdom. In the dark, countless Empire level, and even Divine Kingdom level factions are secretly spying on the Elven Empire, wanting it to fail in its advancement. At a time like this, the power of every God Spirit is very important. Moreover, you signed a contract with the Elven Empire. Are you sure you want to bear the price of violating the contract?" At this moment, Zewu's calm voice sounded. He did not want to stop the other party from joining the Blazing Sun Kingdom. He had spoken his thoughts truthfully. Heras was stunned for a moment before falling silent. When Zhou saw this, how could he not understand that the matter brought up by Heras was probably going to fail? He racked his brains and immediately said, "Senior Heras, if you're in a difficult position, I have another way." "What method?" X2 Heras and Zewu looked at Zhou in unison. "Senior Heras actually doesn't have to guard me at all times like a God Spirit. You can be a God Spirit of the Elven Empire. But you can also come and help me when I need your help. I can ask you to take on such jobs at the price of a normal God Spirit offering. How about it?" Zhou smiled. To put it simply, it was equivalent to extra income. When he needed Heras' help, he could just ask him to help. Sure. However, the Elven Empire is too far from your Blazing Sun Kingdom. You need to build your own spatial teleportation array in your territory and the Elven Empire. This way, I can rush over when you need me." Heras pondered for a long time before saying. Zhou acknowledged. "Then please tell me the conditions you want. If both of us think there's no problem, this matter is settled." He said, "My request is simple. Just let me use the 6 divine artifacts you just gave me. I'll return them to you after this agreement between us ends. Also, I want 100 high-level deity tier elementary grade divine crystals every 100 years. Heras said seriously, "I don't have the 100 high-level deity tier elementary grade divine crystals for the time being. I'll give them to you when I have them." Zhou said, "Haha, it's fine if you don't give it to me. Just give me 2 low-tier divine artifacts when the time comes." Heras smiled. "All right." Zhou agreed with difficulty. Actually, he was laughing so hard in his heart. 2 low-tier divine artifacts every 100 years? If that's the case, you won't be able to escape from me for the rest of your life. Zewu stopped pretending. "Count me in. My conditions are similar. I'll take these 6 low-tier divine artifacts as my deposit from your Blazing Sun Kingdom. In addition, I want 100 mid-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals every 100 years. Zewu said, "Okay. Then from now on, my Blazing Sun Kingdom, and I will have to rely on the 2 of you." Zhou stood up and said, "A very reasonable deal." He had achieved his goal. Heras was in a very good mood and said with a smile. Zewu nodded. Then, Zewu took out a golden paper and wrote some words with divine power on it before handing it to him. Zewu also wrote some divine power words and finally handed them to Zhou. "Sign this contract book. Our agreement has officially begun. If anyone violates the content of this contract, they will be severely punished." Heras reminded. Zhou's gaze landed on the contract book. A text notification appeared. Treasure name, contract book, treasure grade, true god tier, treasure effect. A contract book issued by the god of justice and contract Inaral. The contents of the contract on it will be notarized by the god of justice and contract Inaral. The 2 parties who sign the book of contract cannot violate the content of the contract. Otherwise, They will suffer the designated punishment of violating the contract according to the content of the contract. Treasure description: a divine item created by the god of justice and contract, Inneral. It is specially used to sign contracts, and is deeply loved by living beings who need justice and contracts. Contract content. Zhou looked up at Heraus in surprise. Don't look at me. Even though this thing is a true god-tier treasure, it's actually very cheap. Each portion only costs 1 low-tier deity-level elementary-grade divine crystals. I have a dozen more if you want them, Heraus said indifferently. Then I'll buy it. Zhou immediately said. This thing had too many uses. Chapter 621 Zewu's speculation. Heraus did not waste his breath. With a flip of his right hand, he took out 16 contract books and traded them to Zhou, obtaining 16 low-level deity-tier divine crystals. After that, Zhou began to carefully read the content of the contract in his hand. With the various ancient inheritances in his mind, he naturally could understand a contract. He nodded slightly after reading it. The punishment for breaking the contract was that one's cultivation realm would drop by a major realm. To a god spirit like Heraus, dropping a major realm was quite unacceptable. However, to Zhou, who had the blessing of the war god, he did not lack promotional energy at all. Even if he really broke the contract for some reason in the future, this would not be a harsh punishment for him. Moreover, he did not intend to breach the contract. He read it again and signed his name with chaotic origin energy after confirming that there was no problem. Just as he signed his name, the contract book emitted a faint golden light. Then, it turned into 2 rays of light and flew into Zhou, Heraus, and Zewu's palms, turning into a golden scale pattern the size of a glass ball. Then it slowly disappeared. This meant that the contract had been established. As soon as the contract was established, the attitude between the 3 of them was clearly much better than before. Seeing this, Zhou also handed the low-level divine artifact that the 2 gods had just returned to them. Heraus and Zewu took it carefully and put it into their spatial treasures. After putting them all away, the 2 gods looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. These were a total of 6 low-level divine artifacts. He actually got them. Borrowing them 100 years was quite exciting. They did not expect the King of the Blazing Sun to give them unimaginable treatment. The price was only 100 years. As a god spirit that had already lived forever, 100 years was really nothing to them. If there's a chance in the future, I have to work well with this King of the Blazing Sun. This way, I might be able to borrow more divine artifacts in the future. The 2 gods thought almost at the same time. Their gazes were extremely sinister. It was also obvious that the King of the Blazing Sun definitely had more, or even stronger divine artifacts. However, they did not have any thoughts of coveting it, nor did they dare to. It was currently the event of the King of 10,000 Kings. As god spirits of the Elven Empire, they could not attack lords like Zhou unless he took the initiative to attack them. On the other hand, the god spirits in the Ice Demon Kingdom could snatch Zhou because they already had a direct conflict with him. They did not have to worry about being punished by the Supreme Agreement. The 2 of you can familiarize yourselves with the divine artifact first. I won't disturb you 2 anymore, Zhou said. Then he turned around and walked to his seat. Then, he took out the map and looked at it. Seeing this, Zewu and Heraus also began to familiarize themselves with the 6 low-level divine artifacts. Previously, they had obtained these 6 low-level divine artifacts in a hurry. They had not even had the time to study the specific abilities of these divine artifacts before using them. He could study it carefully now. After completely mastering the laws of these 6 divine artifacts, their combat strength could be further strengthened. At this moment, Zewu suddenly saw Wuxia and Qi Xintian not far away. He looked at the 2 of them and thought of their terrifying combat strength just now. He could not help but click his tongue. These 2 people, a sword immortal from the immortal world, actually killed a low-level god spirit of the ice demon race with the myriad sword immortal formation. As for the human called Wuxia, he was a little strange. He could actually allow his strength to temporarily break through from epic tier advanced grade to low-level deity tier advanced grade in a way that he could not understand. Moreover, he actually looked to be in good condition. This special method of increasing his strength suddenly reminded he of some ancient legendary tier. Zaiwu thought for a moment and came to Guiqiao's side. Did you use some special secret technique just now to temporarily break through to the low-level deity tier advanced grade? Your secret technique should be very high level, right? I feel like you didn't receive any backlash? Zaiwu asked casually. This is a method given to me by His Majesty. However, it can only be used a few times, so the backlash is not very big. As for the more specific details, it's not convenient to say more. Guiqiao was stunned for a moment before saying. Zaiwu nodded. The guess in his heart dissipated. With this King of the Blazing Sun's ability, it was indeed acceptable for him to take out some methods that could increase his subordinate's strength in a short period of time. He shook his head. He should be thinking too much. How could it be those legendary fellows like the Dragon Slayer? Hadn't those guys long been jointly exterminated by the earliest batch of high-level bloodline races? Zaiwu stopped thinking and began to study the 6 low-level divine artifacts. When Guiqiao saw this, he did not show anything on the surface, but he was deep in thought. It seemed that this god spirit had discovered something special about him. However, he naturally would not tell him the secret that he was the Dragon Slayer. Otherwise, a large number of high-level bloodline races would definitely rush over immediately to harm His Majesty. What His Majesty needed now was time to develop. If the other party had already joined the Blazing Sun Kingdom and become a subject of the Blazing Sun Kingdom, he could tell he the secret. After all, the other party would also be a Dragon Slayer. The Starry Night arrived at the capital of the Ice Demon Kingdom. After they appeared, this old capital that had experienced thousands of years of hardship immediately fell silent. Nearly 10 million Ice Demon race commoners looked at the spaceship in the sky in a daze. At this moment, the king of the Ice Demon Kingdom and all the god spirits have been killed by my Blazing Sun Kingdom. From now on, the entire Ice Demon Kingdom, including your Ice Demon King, will be taken over by my Blazing Sun Kingdom. Zhou's voice sounded majestically in the ears of every Ice Demon subject. Then, Zhou did not wait for them to react. He threw Kiro and Kiran's heads down, and they landed heavily on the street of the Ice Demon King city. All the subjects in the capital, who saw this scene, fell silent for a second. Then they all panicked. In the sky, Your Majesty. Some ice demons don't seem to be convinced by us. Wuxia looked at the ice demon subjects flying up below and could not help but laugh. These guys were quite strong. Wuxia even saw 2 legendary tier demons. But what was the use? The difference in strength between them was too great. No matter how much he did, it was just a struggle before death. Take care of them, Zhou said calmly. Yes, Your Majesty. Wuxia received the order and left. A moment later, all the ice demons who dared to resist were eliminated. When the rest saw this, they tactfully gave up resisting and joined the embrace of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. After Zhou sent someone to find a maid who was familiar with the terrain of the palace, he directly asked her where the golden token of the Ice Demon Kingdom was. After easily knowing the exact location, Zhou led his men to the Life Hall and found the kingdom's golden token. He used a law skill and directly broke the kingdom golden token. Then he obtained the territory token, regional token, and the most important kingdom token inside. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.